3, 2, 1. We are here to enjoy the Bravia 8II backlash. Before I jump in and get it off my chest, Brian, welcome. We haven't seen each other in so long, my friend, my fellow bromo.
What's up, brother? We actually see each other now in person more than we see each other on camera. And then when we're in person, we're actually on camera. What's up, everybody? I'm Brian. This is Brian from Brian's Tech Therapy here with my partner in crime, Stop the FOMO. I'm going to do a proper introduction before FOMO gets all fired up. Now, the reason for this get-together is there's quite a bit of a backlash or criticism on the new Sony Bravia 8 Mark II. And FOMO and I have both spent a ton of time with this TV before launch, with it at Value Electronics. We've done live streams with it. And I think it was finally something we wanted to discuss. And also from you guys in the comments, hear what your thoughts are on it, other than the fact that it's expensive. I want to really hear from you guys in the community. We'll share what we think, but it's getting a little out of hand. It's getting beat up as if it's this TV that's not worthy of anything. And we both know that's not accurate. So we're going to go back and forth a bit, but also wanted to say hello. We haven't been together in a while. It's been about 3 months since our last live stream. So it's really another excuse for us to get together, my friend.
Thank you. And let's say hello to everyone that's here. Thank you so much, everyone, for making time for us. If you don't know and you're new to joining our stream, we dive deep into the TVs, and not just the technologies and the specs, but rather how these technologies and specs affect you, which takes us to today's topic. I believe reviewers like myself and Brian and all of us in this space, right? Many people known, many lesser known, because there are new reviewers jumping on TikTok, YouTube, and the web all the time. And we all have to take into consideration their reviews as their point of view from their use case. But sometimes I think the reviews overstate certain weaknesses while not addressing others. And not to throw shit at ratings, because they are our friends. But when I saw
2 minutes in.
I got to jump in right now, only because...
You're like, you know what, we'll talk about it at the end. You're like 3 minutes in.
You know what? I'm just going to throw this up so you guys can see it. So we're just going to jump right into it. So this
before we start, ratings.com, we love them. They are dear friends. We just had conversation with them. So we are going to talk a little bit about, you know, their scoring of the Bravia 8 Mark II before FOMO goes off. But again, this is all to really help them as well. You know, they've been doing what they've been doing for a very long time. We don't agree with a lot of the way they're benchmarking and measuring things. And some of them are pretty easy because we do spend time with these TVs, that when something gets labeled as a certain thing, you cannot unlabel it. Whether it's a bad gaming TV, it's not bright enough in this one preset. There are other presets. There are other use cases for these TVs. So just before we go into it, again, love all the guys over at Ratings, and I just want to say that before FOMO gets on.
Oh, you know what? There's something wrong with my... 1 second. I'm not getting the text properly done, so let me change this. Like, wait, because I love your comments. Like, what the heck happened here?
Yeah, so while he's messing with that, you know, again, this is not a Sony apologist video. We have relations with each and every manufacturer, had several videos from every TV. Right now, we have a bunch of TCL TVs, Samsung TVs, LG TVs.
Oh, yeah, no. So I mean, we're being called Hisense shills, Samsung shills.
Yeah, so I was a TCL shill 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, and so no, I want to be fair to Ahmad, though, because it sounds like I'm apologizing for Sony, and I'm not. What I'm saying is, look, if you're going to create a scoring system, let's talk about how we weight these things. So Ahmad, let me know at the end if you still think I'm capping for Sony, because I would have done this for TCL, Hisense, Samsung. I actually was going to do this for LG, by the way. But I thought this was even better, because there were even more what I thought was unfair bias against the weighting system that to me made no sense. But go ahead, Brian.
Before we get into the rating scoring part of it, FOMO, why don't we just discuss a little bit of what the criticism has been that you've heard from the community? Forget about their scoring just yet, because it's not really the point of the video is just to go against or even compare.
Okay. So I'll just tell you right now, the community is just complaining it's expensive. But then once ratings put out, suddenly there's this backlash. Oh, I knew it. Sony sucks. Suddenly
Yeah.
they jump,
Yeah.
none of them have the Bravia 8 Mark II or II. They
So, yeah.
ride
So,
this review to the very end. I'm like, wait a minute. Do you even see the strengths of this TV? No. They
no.
only
So,
focus,
yeah.
and even the SDR Pro, and I'm going to tell you this, the SDR, well, okay. If you get me started, I'm going to start into this review. So
Yeah.
you have
So
one last chance, Brian,
let's,
to
so,
say one thing, because I have to jump right in. I can't stop
so let
myself.
me quick. So I'm going to quickly set the stage. Okay. What's been very interesting with TVs lately, and that's and Ian, that is a very valid point. If it's too expensive, there's many things out there that are too expensive: receivers, speakers, graphics cards. Not everything is made for everyone, and there are more affordable options even in Sony's own lineup, whether it's the Bravia 8 or the Bravia 5, the X90, Bravia 7. I understand that, but I'm going to set the stage this way. Because of what we see in store, FOMO, I just recently saw the Bravia 8 Mark II in store this last week. Many of you in this chat and many of you that will see this video in the future have never laid eyes on this TV other than our videos. You've never seen it. So a lot of it is, well, I saw it on this dude's channel. I saw it, you see it on my channel. You see it on this one. You see it in all these different things. And then you're running with that. Then you take numbers and say, oh, the thing's garbage. Now, it does have drawbacks in certain ways. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I'm going to set the stage this way. When that TV was first released, we had seen it before it launched, spent a lot of time with it. We spent also 2 days of Value Electronics. That is about 18 to 20 hours on camera, where it was put against the G5, the S95F, as well as the legendary A95L. Now, other than what you see on camera, me and this guy sit there for hours and watch these TVs with movies, not with demo material. And there was not one shot where the A95L beat the Bravia 8 Mark II. Not one. If anything, throughout the video, what we did, and the Bravia, here's the funny thing, the A95L was 77. So what we did in that time, what we said, and even Luke and Tony was there, 2 of our community guys, all we could say was, it's pretty surprised. The A95L's hanging in there. Not just with the Bravia 8 Mark II, it hung in there with the G5 and the S95F. But it was not in the same level. So all I've been hearing is all this advice to buy the older TV. Now, if you want to save money, guys, it's always going to be about buying the older TV. That's always the use case. You want a cheaper C-Series FOMO? Get a C4. You want a cheaper G-Series? Get a G4. The difference is, guys, what you're not seeing in person is there are differences that show up to the eye that you guys are not seeing, and you're just running with getting an older TV. Now, I'll finish with this part of it. What happens when you buy an A95L? I'm even seeing here, the A95L does better on SDR Brightness. It does in one preset. So say it's the professional preset. Now, I don't know this information. Let's just say it's a professional preset. And the engineers decide to scale back and make the professional preset in SDR more accurate. Well, there's standard, there's vivid, there's different presets for a reason. I don't get a TCL TV and put it in sports mode. In SDR, I put it in sports mode. I wouldn't put any Bravia 9 to watch sports and professional. That's why there's a standard preset. The other presets from the Bravia 8 Mark II beat the heck out of the A95L in terms of brightness. Right? So
And that's a great segue.
Yes, but real quick, my point is, guys, I don't care what you buy. Right? Him and I are both covering these. We have other things happening coming with other manufacturers. We've barely done any Sony content recently. But the fact is, we've seen these TVs and I've spent time with it. If it's expensive, I got you. 100%. There's nothing we can say about that. And I can't even defend that. But as far as it being backwards or not as good as the A95L, so what's going to happen here, FOMO, is you're going to buy the A95L. This happened with the Sony A9G. Master Series, shootout winner, FOMO. Beautiful TV, not bright at all. A lot of people did not buy the new Sony OLEDs. They went back and they bought that TV, which was 2 years old. And then when the new TVs came out, they felt terrible about having an older TV. Now the TV's 2.5 years old. So what I'm saying to you guys is, go see the TV for yourself. Even in a Best Buy, they're there now. It's night and day from the A95L. Now, one preset. All they got to do is change that in a firmware update, and that whole thing is solved. But now as FOMO's ready to go, what I'm trying to say to you guys is we've spent a lot a lot of time with these TVs. And the Bravia 8 Mark II is beautiful. Is it light years ahead? Guys, none of these TVs are light years ahead of what they were last year. But I'm here not as an apologist, but tell you what I see with these TVs and the time we've spent with them. Your stuff's all set now, Fomo?
Oh, I am just brewing. Okay, so let's jump into the three biggest.
Doesn't have look, Ahmad Z. I understand. It's too expensive. It doesn't have a backlit remote. I got you. We'll talk about that in a moment. But like, these are things that I have issues with.
We're gonna have legitimate complaints, right?
We have complaints, and we've said them in our videos, guys.
Let me start out with my legitimate complaint. Remote sucks. There's no backlight, and it's unjustified in this day and age when a QM6K for $600 has a backlit remote. Okay, I've said it. I've told Sony many times. I completely agree. Now, it's not a reason not to buy a TV. I mean, if that's the reason why you buy a TV, you know, you're not going to get an LG. You're not going to get a Samsung. None of them have a backlit. And at least Sony has an option to buy a backlit, pay $80, and you have a backlit. Can't do that with either Samsung or LG. Not even an option. Whereas it comes with all Hisense and TCL. So let's get the backlit out of the way. That's a fail for all the big three, not just Sony. Secondly, I think the Bravia 8 Mark II stand, questionable, right? I don't like it only wide, but they explained very clearly the internals of the Sony. They added more stuff to it. They could not move it into the center. I get it. Engineering defined it. This is how they did it. And then the designers that cased it, oh, I'm sorry, that's all we had. They explained it very clearly. Engineering runs Sony, and then the designers take it and work around it, right? They add the audio later, so whatever.
Wide, bro.
But image quality starts there, not the stand. I get it, but I'm still unhappy.
Yeah.
So, but those are my two biggest complaints.
But even with the stand, we'll stay there because these are tangible. Since you guys are bringing them up, I'll tell you honestly, the stand is so wide, and I understand. I had to review it on a massive table. I get that. It's so wide. The Bravia 8 had an internal stand. The A95L at 77 had two positions. I get that. That's a real complaint. The remote, same thing. I get it. These are premium TVs. This is pretty much their master series, which always came with a remote. It came with a certain design. Guys, we mentioned those things in our reviews. We mentioned those things to Sony when we were in front of them. So these are real deals. But, you know, when you start saying the whole thing is garbage and you add in those things, forget about why you're buying a Sony. What are you buying the Sony for?
Yep. And we're not going to mention price because, as many people have said, in the EU, the Bravia 6 or the Bravia 8II is like $600 cheaper. It's just the US, whatever the reason. Oh yeah, I mean, they're like, oh yeah, I got a Bravia 8 for like only whatever, $700 cheaper than G5. That's what we expected. But you know what? You know who to blame on that. I'm not going to comment anymore. That's why pricing is set it aside. The rest of the world is getting the Bravia 8 Mark II significantly cheaper than the US. That's why the pricing, it's what it is in the US, right? Sony's going to learn to lower their price and match that. So we're going to leave that at the end, though, because I have a whole value discussion that you guys can look at.
And quick, guys, for you guys that don't know, the margins on TVs is minuscule. It is almost nothing. It's nothing for the retailers, for the dealers. So when you start cutting prices, or they can't absorb none of them can. TCL and Hisense are now selling TVs at a loss for a market share.
Right.
Right. So it's, you know, and so is Samsung, by the way. They're making their money on the lifestyle aspect of it. Sony, they can't really cut that much. Now, I don't know that from them, but I'm telling you, in the industry, speakers, projectors, receivers, there is some leeway. The TVs, for some reason, just don't have that. I don't understand why, but there is no margins.
I'll tell you why, because TCL and Hisense is killing them. They're willing to sell at margin.
At a loss,
Because that's how you dominate the world. You pay just enough for everyone to make the TVs. Don't need to make money. Government's going to make sure you stay in business. And hey, that's what it is. That's global economy for you. But actual capitalist-run countries need the corporations to be for profit. You cannot run at break even. End of story. And you know what? We're benefiting from that. That's great. But it is forcing the other economies. I'm not here to talk economics, but that's the reality.
Well, and too, FOMO, the fact is, you want them all to stay in the TV business. And the turnaround of launching an entire new lineup every year, and every manufacturer has done this. Samsung has also gotten rid of the QN85. They've gotten rid of the QN95. Even they have said, we can't keep launching new TVs every year. So what you're seeing from Sony, the Bravia 9 carries over. Now that's not news. Master Series always had a 2-year lifespan. So what they have done is they've dovetailed this year. I was let down when I saw the Sony lineup. There was only 2 TVs. We thought it, because dude, I mean, the leaks were better than the reality. I was like, oh, we're getting Bravia 12? We're getting everything. So my point is, they've dovetailed it. So they look at their lineup as one big thing, right? Bravia 9, Bravia 7, Bravia 5. We're expecting new products every year. We want that.
Yeah.
That's not always going to happen. And you're seeing every manufacturer scaling that back. They used to have the 930E, the 900E, the Z9D, the 8K. They're all learning they can't do it every single year. And that's kind of the way you have to look at it. The problem with that is, FOMO, is you're going to see the A95Ls getting up there in age. So that's going to happen to the Bravia 9 at some point. So that's a risk they take. But it is expensive. We're not going to deny it. It is expensive. But what I don't see from other products, whether it's watches or cars, no one's walking into a Mercedes dealership and saying, I'm here to save some money.
Yeah.
If it's expensive, it's expensive. Then it's not for you, and that's okay. But to say that it's garbage because it's expensive, I don't understand. Or saying it's garbage because the stand is too wide or you don't have a backlit remote, that takes away what Sony's really selling here, which is the image quality and the processing. It was what they pride themselves on. I've never heard them say, we're the best gaming TV in the world. Or, we'll talk about gaming in a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, let me hit the super chats. I'll go on my rant, and then we'll also have comparisons with the G5, because I need to show you guys what it means to compare.
And that's my TV,
when it comes
by
to
the way.
brightness, right? Yeah, no, it's my TV. I bought the G5. I should be defending the G5, right? Jeez. Okay, real quick super chat. Thank you, Christian, for showing up. He's a regular, very generous of you. I saw the Bravia 8 Mark II, I assume, not Bravia 9 Mark II, in Best Buy. It looked gorgeous. They should have done a 77-inch. Agreed. Unfortunately, this release is just to keep their King of TVs title, which they may. I mean, I'm hearing early reviews from the calibrators who've been calibrating different TVs all over the country, S95F, G5, and Bravia 8 Mark II, and they're liking what they see. But you know what? This new firmware from G5 may change the narrative. Hey, Buddy Love, thank you for showing up and your generosity and the super chat. They complained that the backlit remote with use up batteries faster. Now they're complaining they don't have a backlit remote. Yeah, I know, right? You can't win. You just can't win.
But that was true. That was the A90J. Remember that? If you put it down on its by accident.
Right. So you need a solar-powered backlit, right? Combine Samsung with the best of TCL. Okay, so ratings, complaints. These are the 3 things that brought it down. Now, there were also gaming issues, but I want to address that separately. Let's just address the ones that I think affect everybody, right? SDR Brightness in professional mode. That's how they measured it. Raised black levels in bright rooms and SDR pre-calibration accuracy. So we'll hit them one by one. I'm showing you the score that ratings gave the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, the G5, and the S95F for context, because they recommended those TVs over this one. And again, we're going to take value outside of the equation, only because there are many countries where it's actually much cheaper than G5 and S95F, but we will address that at the end. And of course, next to that, I have fair and unfair, meaning I think they overweighted these scores for what it is, and then my commentary as a short reminder of what I'm going to address. So we'll start with SDR Brightness in professional mode. So when you guys watch me do a review, live stream, whatever, every time I measure the brightest TV, what is my one thing I tell you guys? In a bright room, you want to watch bright sports, you need to hit that brightness in a bright room because that's when it's most needed, right? First of all, in a bright room, it is impossible to be referenced. Color will be off. Gamma will be off. I mean, everything just doesn't work in a bright room. It's completely pointless to keep it in professional mode and max it out, because when you max it out in professional mode, Sony's like, wait, we have other modes for bright rooms. And no differently, the G5 has standard and vivid mode. All these TVs have other modes that are more effective in a bright room. I don't know anyone that goes into a bright room and says, you know what room's really bright? Let's critically watch a movie in Filmmaker or whatever it is, get the most, your accuracy is off because you have ambient lighting. If it's cloudy outside, and first of all, in a dark room, it's mostly your rods, Your pupils are less dilated. I mean, it's a completely different vision experience. In a bright room, your pupils are not dilated. Now you're looking at cones, different light sensitivity. You cannot match brightness in a bright room and say SDR sucks, because what is SDR in a bright room? Sports, news. Okay, with that in mind, all the TV makers know this. So I'm not going to say, oh, only Sony knows this. Their Vivid and Standard is specifically designed to bring that out for that content. If you're in a bright room and you watch Netflix in Standard or Vivid, trust me, it looks just as good, just change the color temperature, right? And we're going to do that comparison today. I'm going to have the Sony in its brightest mode for a bright room against the LG, and you will see, oh wait, the Sony's not that far behind. As a matter of fact, it is probably equivalent to the S95F. I'm getting the S95F because we saw it at our live stream showdown in Valley Electronics a couple of months ago. Identical. So when I saw this one is really dim, I'm like, wait, this makes no sense. And I spoke to ratings. I said, wait, did you limit this to Filmmaker? I said, yes. All we did in Filmmaker was increase brightness to maximum. Well, secondly, Sony has, for bright rooms, peak luminance, low, medium, high. And I tested it, yes, even high in Filmmaker, to me, not bright enough. Again, bright room. You need to be in Standard or Vivid because you're watching sports, news, whatever, across the room. No one's critically watching movies in a bright room. I don't get it. So I think they overstated that dimness in a bright room.
Well, and to your point, FOMO, when people say SDR is very important to them, the first thing they say to me is sports. They say sports. It's about sports. So when you do look at some of these manufacturers have a sport mode, an actual sport mode. If I was comparing, and I've done this before, if I was comparing, say, the QM7K to the Bravia 7, which I'm going to do, when I go into the sports mode, I'm not going to compare it to Sony's professional mode. Why would I do that? Even in SDR, it's filmmaker to filmmaker. But if I want, and I've seen the QM7K also measured very low in SDR. We'll take it out of its most accurate preset to sports. It's very bright. So
and
to say
just for you guys, I've been running. This is why I'm wearing a tank top. I am sweating.
I was going to say, y'all flexing today?
It's because both TVs have been running in their brightest modes for the last 3 hours to make sure if there's any dimming, it would dim, right? So it's not like, oh, Sony's bright for 5 seconds and then the minute FOMO takes off the screen and walks away, it's going to dim. This is how bright they'll be. At their maximum brightness, this is Sony's sustained brightness after 3 hours, and maybe heat throttling because I have a fan blowing on me, but it's still very warm in here. So you guys will see for yourself whether this TV is bright enough. And again, if you need accuracy, like, oh, I got to have D65 in a bright room, it does not make sense to me, but okay, yes, maybe the S95F and G5, maybe, but then get a calibrator to calibrate the Sony Vivid mode and how close you're getting to these crazy bright, like, it doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I think it's unfair that they hit it so hard. I'm not saying the Filmmaker isn't bright. It isn't. But all the other proper presets for bright room hits it hard and it destroys the A95L. So for anyone, well, should I get the A95L? It's a dim TV. That's why I got rid of mine. I'm like, I can't watch sports in this thing. I put it in Vivid mode and it looks just like Filmmaker mode. Like,
we gotta stay right where you are. So listen to what he just said. He doesn't want his A95L for that reason. But you're being steered to buy the A95L for one metric and one preset. You take it out of that professional preset where it's supposed to be the most accurate and you rock it into standard, you're going to see that it's a Gen 4 QD-OLED versus a Gen 2 QD-OLED. And you're going to smack yourself and go, and look, the A95L is awesome. The A95K is awesome. But going back and buying those older TVs, other than to save money, there is no reason for it. If you want a 77, you got to do it. If you want a cheaper TV, you got to do it. Other than those two things, there's no reason to choose the A95L over the Bravia 8 Mark II. Other than this one metric that you were not saying they're running with. But look, this has happened over the years where people leave it in Filmmaker and that's all they do for their review. A lot of people do HDR brightness in Filmmaker. But I would argue this, when the A90J was measured as the brightest OLED ever, it wasn't in custom, it was in Vivid. So why are we not doing the same to see how bright it is? Because I'll tell you right now, the other presets, it annihilates the A95L. Not only that, everyone's recommending the S90F, which is an amazing, amazing TV.
Oh no, it's a great value. That's my most recommended OLED probably this year.
So right here we're talking about value, guys. So people are choosing the S90F over the G5.
Oh wait,
the S95.
Are you jumping to value already?
No. Just I'll come back to it in a minute. But real quick, I compared the Bravia 8 Mark II in this studio to the S90F, and it was brighter. And in HDR, the professional mode was brighter than its filmmaker mode. So yes, should it be brighter? It is brighter because it's more expensive. It's another level higher. But the point is, people are telling you to buy that TV over this one, not just because of value, because it's a superior TV. If it's cheaper, run with it. Take it, buy it. But if you're saying it's a better TV, image quality-wise, that is not accurate to say. I know I have them together.
And we have one more super chat and a great comment to close out that my SDR Brightness. I think I made my point about the different presets, but let's hit the super chat real quick. Thank you, Cloud9 Rhythms. I'm looking for value. Buy a G4 S95D. Does size matter? So if you mean size, whether size improves image quality on an OLED, no. It's just more immersion. So I prefer you get the larger G4 S95D, the larger the better because more immersion. Obviously, you don't want to be too close to a large TV, but the G4 does come in an 83-inch, and that's incredible for that brightness. Whereas the S95D, that technology stops at 77. So, depending on your budget. Now, as far as value, G4 is definitely brighter than the S95D, but the S90F has the exact same performance as the S95D, but it's non-glossy. But it's not as premium. So we're back to this connect box, right? So if you need anti-glare, get the S95D. If you want glossy, don't need it, get the S90F. Prices are similar, maybe even it'll be a bit less by Black Friday than the S95D. But the S95D is mostly sold out. So if you still have it available, I love it. That was my benchmark TV last year. But this year, the S90F, which I have over there, literally matched it. So I got rid of the S95D now because, like, wait, it's obsolete because the S90F literally is that TV without the anti-glare matte coating. Now the G4 is recommended if you need a bright TV in a bright room. Its vivid mode was untouchable last year, and it continues to be very bright, but you lose some color saturation from contrast, so it depends on your content. If you don't need that brightness, I like the S95D more.
So do me a favor, put up Plasma TV for Gaming's comment. The S95D beats the Bravia 8 Mark II while being significantly cheaper.
Wait. Oh, well, it's no longer available at Best Buy. So if you guys see it and you want it, this one, S9L?
Well, that's not the one. There's the one after that where he says it's significantly better. Now, Plasma TV for Gaming is a fellow creator. I like him a lot. Here's my problem with your comment.
Significantly cheaper.
It's the S95D. Oh, I thought you meant the S95F. Okay. But
no,
it beats, what does it beat it in?
Well, okay, I'll tell you, the Bravia 8 Mark II is brighter than the 95D. It is brighter. So you need brightness. The Bravia, and it sustains it. But for gaming, the S95D is probably better gaming TV.
A Plasma TV for gaming. And we're friends. What I'm saying to you is you have not spent any time with the Bravia 8 Mark II other than probably seeing it in a store. But what you're saying is it beats it in what? Does it beat it in gaming? Of course it does.
I see his name, and it's got to be gaming.
No, that's okay.
And that's why that's a separate discussion. We have to bring that in later. Then I will welcome all the gamers out.
Absolutely. But again, for Plasma TV for gaming, you're a hardcore gamer. So am I. But if that's the way you want it to beat it, of course it beats it. Any monitor is going to beat the Bravia 8 Mark II, but you've never spent time with it. Its picture processing doesn't come near the Bravia 8 Mark II. Now for gaming, yes, but then you should say the S95D beats the Bravia 8 Mark II for gaming. But to say it beats it flat out when you haven't spent any time with it, and even if you're saying here the full screen brightness is higher, then you should say it's a brighter TV, not necessarily a better TV. You see my point with it? Is to say that it's better. Better in what is it trying to do? Sony has never said we have the brightest TVs in the world. But what you buy a Sony for, the S95D cannot touch what it does well. So you're going to have somebody that you may follow you that wants the best picture processing, that's going to buy an S95D and say, where's the upscaling? Where's the image processing? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's
Actually,
all I'm
no.
saying with it.
Yeah, I'm going to save this comment because I think it's important. You bring up a good point that I'm going to address
What's up, Mozart?
because we're gonna close it out as far as brightness because there's some comments that are definitely good. Because I want to move on because there are so many topics to talk about that
Yeah, but
are
in
related to the
plasma TV for gaming,
complaints.
there's nothing but love, nothing but love. What I'm trying to say to you, this is a discussion, right? So, getting into a
Well, there
discussion and
there
claim,
are a few absolutes in life, right?
yes,
So,
but to say,
but we'll bring him
but to
back on.
say,
We're not
but the
talking gaming yet because he's going to have
yeah,
his
but
space. So, Plasma,
of
save
course, but
all your comments related to gaming until
say
then.
that. But what I want to say to you is that you've spent a significant amount of time with the S95D, and unless I'm not aware, you have spent zero time with the Bravia 8 Mark II. I don't know if that's fair. You may have spent time with it, but if you're looking at ratings or whatever reviews, have you spent time with them both? Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you have, then I will back off, and you can say that it's better in whatever. It's definitely cheaper. It's better in these few things. First, you don't like the matte screen, and you're not gonna unless you're gonna peel it off like my boy. That's another thing to consider. The One Connect box is a difference.
Yep.
So to say blanketly that this one's better is not really something I agree with, especially if you haven't seen it or spent any real time with it. That's all.
So Brian has a great comment. It's
So
definitely
Brian,
illogical and unfair to compare to in pro mode, professional mode, under those conditions. But I'm unironically glad this happened because maybe they won't nerf the panel so hard in pro mode next time. So it's a matter of what do you mean by nerf? Because I know Sony engineering well enough where they're like, okay, if you're in professional mode, you're probably in a subtly lit room, right? You're near reference, maybe not too dark. At most, there's some lighting, but it's light controlled. That's what professional mode means. I don't think Sony ever thought, hey, in the brightest room possible, let's nerf professional mode. They never even thought anyone would be watching professional mode on the beach. I mean, literally, that's what you're saying is, okay, on the beach, in a bright room, and they're like, wait, that's a thing? And so, to be fair, I don't want to call it nerf. They're like, wait, we have other presets. It's like, why are you putting off-road wheels when we're going to go on a track? Well, you should use those guys' wheels because they use it on track and off-road. They're like, we don't understand. What's the point of the presets? It's as if the presets do not exist and it's always going to be in professional mode, right? That's not the case. There's a sports mode. There's a vivid mode for whatever reason. There's a game mode, right? I mean, every TV has their modes. So Brian Julius, I get what you're saying. But I'm telling you from Sony's point of view, they are utterly confused. I'm putting words in their mouth because they didn't tell me this, but I know them.
they don't
When
tell
they
us
label
anything, by the way.
something,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
spoken
I
to
mean,
Sony about this, but I'm telling you right
no.
now, professional mode is by its name, you're in a professional room environment, which is what they assumed. Clearly they assumed wrong. They didn't realize, oh no, professional mode, blast that baby, right? Well, if you do
Yeah,
that, what's the point of the other modes?
but FOMO, can you imagine if there's one engineer that they were sitting there going, you know what, the professional mode, because we said even with the A95L in the shootout, had too much processing. It was definitely brighter than the other filmmaker modes from the other manufacturers. A little extra something in professional. What happens if they scale that back? They just said, you know what, we don't need professional mode to be that bright in that one preset. They're like, oh, damn. So
Yep.
yeah, it's heavily weighted on that.
And so let me put pause in this because I don't want to get hit. Okay, speaking of brightness, and Mozart's Ghost has the last word on the brightness before I show you
What's up,
this
Corey?
demo.
Corey in the house. Long time no see, brother. What's up, Patrick? What's up,
Okay,
Mozart?
so Mozart's
What's up,
saying the
Dave?
Bravia 8 II is for darkroom Prius. It's not for gamers. So these are two
Aye, aye.
different comments. I will take that it's not for PC gamers. Console gamers, we're going to have a discussion. But Bravia
Yep.
8 Mark II is for darkroom purists. Okay, so here we are. These are the two bright modes, right? Sports mode. And if you're wondering, wait, why isn't it vivid? Because actually for sports, it appears that the G5, I think, this year, the sports is probably its brightest mode. Cinema is darker, powder safe standard. Vivid, I don't know. Vivid, okay, let's put on vivid, just so you can see that this is its brightest mode. And for those wondering, I'll make sure to always reset everything so I'm not doing funny business. And this is the latest firmware ending in 35, right? So we'll reset this. All right, so this is at its out-of-the-box vivid setting. Okay, and I don't want the Sony because it's going to recognize that this is on pause. So the Sony is in vivid mode as well. And same thing, we will reset the picture settings, right? Reset for vivid. Yes. Okay, so now, there we go. Because I held static. Okay. Yes, the G5 is slightly brighter. Slightly. I'll give it that. And that's why I recommend it for sports. But guys, do you understand that the Bravia 8, oh, you know, I need to label this thing. Completely forgot. Let me label it real quick. Bravia 8. 8i. So this is the Bravia 8, and this is the G5. So if you need brightness and you're watching sports, news, which we're watching now, the TVs are near, I mean, they're very close, and definitely the Bravia 8 Mark II destroys the A95L in full screen brightness watching any kind of content like this. The vivid mode on the A95L is very similar to its standard and nearly like its filmmaker. It does not get super bright. And that's what I've said before, right? And so this is why I'm saying if you're going to measure brightness, ask what's the use case for brightness. I understand you're going to go use case with, well, let's see, maybe look at sports for you guys. Let's see. I don't know, the Drew Barrymore show.
You should do a video on your most recommended what's it called? Your most your most recommended shows to watch, the Drew Barrymore show.
I know, right? But this is why I recommend the G5 as the brightest sports OLED, period. Brighter than the G4, better color. The B8II isn't bad. Definitely not deserving of the 6.7. Maybe if the G5 is 8.8, maybe it's an 8.3. So, you know, this is why I'm kind of playing sports for you guys. Is better get out of this before I get hit for something random.
Yeah, but, you are freaking, you're like Circus Soleil, bro, walking a tightrope. You put that Mario Brothers back on. What's up, D Nice? Is that D Nice? Is that
hey, Dwayne?
Nice? Dwayne, you in the house? What's up, Dwayne? Looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks, brother.
Hey, Dwayne, can we fix the green tint with calibration? Because a lot of people are complaining of the G5 out of the box, either red or green. I mean, it's like all over the place. Okay, so this is Jennifer's stuff. Thank you, Jennifer Gala, for making this possible. I want to play something with you guys, right? So this is the vivid mode on both TVs, so you guys can see how, I'm going to take the exposure down a touch so you can see the difference.
What's up, bro? Can't wait to see you, man.
I don't want it to clip. So you guys, oh, the G5
I only
is
see
clipping,
Dwayne
whatever.
once a year now, bro. How are things?
Okay, so real quick, now let's move into my next one. And this is one, oh, actually, no, I'm not done with the complaints. So, raised black level. So, and of course, ratings complain about the Bravia 8, 5.3, raised black. QD-OLED. Look at the S95F. Was this not the TV that was, oh, this is a better alternative? Imagine how disappointed people will be when they get the S95F only to find, oh wait, it's raised blacks is just as bad as the Sony. So, hey, I complain about it. On the live stream, what did people say? That's it, I'm getting the G5. QD-OLED is dead to me. Because in this room, the brown, you know, the color shift in a bright room, and then you had the magenta, and then you had the raised blacks. Yes, S90F has that. S95F, S95D, S90D, A95, they all have it, and they're all around 5.3, 5.2, 5.4, it just depends. But it felt like, oh, well, only Bravia 8 has the raised black levels in a bright room. They all do. They all look bad. And that's why, for me, what did I say the G5? G5 is the bright room TV. And then lastly, SDR pre-calibration accuracy 6.4. Well, you know what? Sony, that is bad. That's fair. And you need to do a firmware to fix that. So these are the complaints that I think affects most consumers. And then we're going to go to gaming next. But yeah, Brian, what are your thoughts overall on those issues?
Again, it just comes into what we've seen by eye. I mean, look, I love the G5. I have the G5. My review for it was perfectly imperfect. It's a mess in some ways, and they're working to fix it. and they've caught their backlash. But I think this year, I've never seen a year like this where the backlash is just people just smacking things all over the place.
Well, I think part of it is, we talk about the backlash. Sony winning the King of TV shootout 5 years straight, they're waiting for any reason
Yeah,
to say,
and that's
finally,
true.
there's a weakness. So maybe there's some
Yeah,
psychology involved.
and that's true. I mean, look, and, D Nice is in the chat too, but LG won 5 years straight as well. So I
Yeah,
mean,
in the past, right, prior years,
They
right.
were they were the only OLEDs out at that time. But I mean, we are in an age of fixing things with firmware updates. Gaming is never okay at launch, so we're all about doing that. But again, what is Sony's signature? We talk about signature a lot. Is their signature to be the brightest TV? It's not. That's not what they're looking
And well,
to do.
speaking of brightest TV, Brian, look at how close the Sony is to the G5. G5 is still slightly brighter, but to hear
Well,
the narrative, it's as if, well, the Sony, you can barely see the darn thing. That's how close they are.
I would say, what are they in now? They're in professional?
They're in vivid mode, because if we're going to test brightness, then test it in vivid mode.
But your camera's definitely too dark on both of them, I think, right now, because the A90.
Well, because remember HDR, if I make it to the brightness, then the shadow detail will be lost. The dynamic range of my camera. Yeah, I unfortunately do not have a Venice or a red. 21 stops of brightness.
But I mean, my point is, if we get into where the G5, like I'll give you an example, the G5 is blindingly bright. And Sony with their mini LEDs have always been brighter because they've cared about shadow detail versus, say, other manufacturers. Now, the point isn't about it being brighter than the G5. That's not the discussion. The discussion is the A95L versus the Bravia 8 Mark II. That's the discussion. And I think what people got bothered by with the A95,
and before you move from that, let's confirm the A95L is not brighter than the Bravia 8 Mark II. It is not. Now, in professional mode, could be. Yeah, SDR professional mode, maybe 20 nits more, because Sony's not thinking people are maxing out brightness in professional mode. They're focused, you need bright? You're going to look at standard, vivid, gaming, not professional mode. And so Sony's like, what, you want the extra nits? We can, but that screws up the whole point of professional mode. So the A95L is not a brighter TV. Let's just end that discussion.
And before we move into gaming, what you guys don't understand either is that we visit all these manufacturers, right? So we spent. Oh, go ahead. Read Chris's thing before we.
Let me hit some super chats real quick. Very patient. Thank you, Christian. I got an 85-inch TCL QM8 display model for $900. I tried to get them to include a discount warranty. They didn't budge. I have Best Buy Total though, so he's a Total Tech member. As am I. I mean, it makes it so much easier to buy. You get the 2-year warranty, which is a year longer than manufacturer. More importantly, with that Total Tech, they will handle the replacement. And if it's 85 inches, they will come to your house, pick it up, and leave. You don't have to take it to them. So good job, Christian. Loving that. Next super chat. Andres, thank you for that. Is the A95L 3rd generation panel? So Sony will not confirm what generation it is. They're just like, look, we tuned them to be consistent. So that means the A95L you bought 2 years ago is going to be exactly the same as the A95L you're buying today. That is Sony's position. If it happens to be brighter, panel lottery, but not because of the generation, right? They make sure that the TVs perform within spec from the release of the A95L at the beginning to the end of its life. So that's their position. So I don't know if 3rd gen panel is important beyond maybe longevity, unrelated to performance, because, new, more efficient panel is always a little bit better. A95L 77-inch as bright as the S95D 77? No, the S95D 77-inch is definitely brighter. And this year's S90F 77, also brighter. Getting it for Prime Day. Like brightness from S95D, but like Sony for movies. I say if you're in a super bright room, you watch a lot of sports, you might want that, but if that's not your thing, I think the Sony for movies is a great, and even in light control, I mean, if you're in a bright room, now the Bravia 8 Mark II, if only it came in a 77, that would have been my recommendation.
Then it would be really expensive.
Yeah, imagine that in the US, right? $6,000. And another
Which
super
is
chat, thank you.
what my G5 costs $6,000. Oh, it's 83.
Thank you, Christian, for your generosity. The TCL is going in my bedroom. I wanted a 75-inch, but I sit 8 feet from an 85-inch in my living room.
Attaboy,
Okay,
make me
that's
proud.
good. And the
That's
TCL
what
will
I
be
do.
11 feet
Attaboy.
in my bedroom. Boy, this guy, the giant TVs everywhere. Is this too much size for a bedroom? Again, how far are you sitting in his bedroom?
Dude, I just picture
8
Chris is in the
feet.
bathroom with an 85.
Oh, 11 feet. 11 feet, 85 inches is not too big for the bedroom. I mean, you're
No.
11 feet. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. Now, your significant other might say, what the hell is taking over the entire wall? But I think you're fine. So all
Christian's
good.
definitely
All
somebody
good.
who needs a 98 minimum next time.
Right.
Next year.
Okay,
98.
so let me go on to, I want to make sure I cover the major complaints first. Okay, so we did. Now, let's get into gaming, right? So here we are. HDMI 2.1 port limitation. Okay, you know, that's what it is. And if you need 2 ports, don't get the Sony. Or more than 2, right? If you need eARC on a separate port, don't get the Sony. It's what it, if you know your needs, but you know, it's like, okay, how much do you weigh that to make it a non-recommendation? And then next is gaming performance. And this is one that I find very interesting. They made a big deal that there are 3.3 milliseconds difference between the Sony at 4K 120 and the other 2 TVs. And most people don't realize 4K 120, if you're a console gamer, that 3 milliseconds is completely irrelevant right now. If you're a PC gamer, high performance, you know, you want your 500 hertz monitor, you want the best TV, Sony is not for PC gamers. But I think for console gamers, and this is where I'm going to invite the plasma for gaming, console gamers, PlayStation 5 Pro, Xbox Series X, 4K 120 is all you need. That 3 millisecond difference, I dare anyone to be able to distinguish that, because to be able to do that, you better be running on a 280 plus 360 frequency refresh monitor, then maybe those extra 5 milliseconds will make a difference. But when your controller latency with the game engine inefficiency, I mean, Black Myth Wukong, man, that adds its own latency that destroys the TV's input lag. All these TVs,
not very optimized, that game, by the way.
Yeah, so I think, again, the Sony's not for PC gamers, but I believe that the Sony is definitely for console gamers, and that's fine. And then the last thing, because a lot of people were complaining, well, what about HGIG? So if you guys caught my live stream at Sony, and this is, so I'm going to throw this out there. The guy's like, wait, there is not supposed to be a button that's HGIG. Your standard mode is HGIG. Yeah, so when it's out of the box, HGIG is active. Because if you turn it off, then what is that? Like, what? And I'm like, wait, you're right. He goes, yes. Default, the Sony in-game mode standard is designed to be HGIG. Now, if you want to get away from that and start adding dynamic tone mapping, all that stuff, go to town. But their standard is HGIG. And more important, they're like, there wasn't supposed to be a button, but now everyone's adding a button. So my response is, well, when you turn off the button, what mode is that? Like, well, yeah, we don't know. Because you should have an HGIG. And then when you add dynamic tone mapping, you could add more magic to it, right? Brighter, this and that. But the standard mode is HGIG. So I think for those wondering, how come Sony doesn't have HGIG? Sony's like, it is already in HGIG. That should be accurate out of the box. And that's their position. Now, whether it is accurate is a whole other matter. And that's why a lot of people have their game modes calibrated. LG, Samsung, Sony, feel free to calibrate your game mode. But Sony out of the box, standard, that's their most accurate mode. And if you want to fine tune it, go ahead, but that's HGIG for Sony. Now, here's the last thing I'll say. I felt that the gaming performance, if you watch the video, I think it's overstated. It's almost as if PC gamers are running ratings when they made the last recommendation. Like, okay, I get all the other stuff, right? Because, you know, maybe brightness, you know, they feel professional mode, accurate is important. I get it. But this is a bit too hard. And if you tell me, well, for a premium TV, no one who's shopping a premium TV, other than gamers, but everybody else,
other than
when they're paying when you're buying a premium TV, you're looking at things like maybe better audio, a better stand, just things that are premium. And for
Yeah.
that, the Bravia 8 is a little overpriced. I agree. But you know, you have a Samsung. That's a brand. That's for gamers. Get the Samsung. Don't try to stuff the Sony into that. We're not, I mean,
No.
and there are so many features that all these three companies have spent so much money on that no one is reviewing, right?
Yeah.
Because Sony and I know Samsung and LG, they have their version. They have their ambient pro optimization where in a bright room, you turn it on, it's even more accurate because it's adjusting to the lighting, all that stuff. Well, why don't we test that and see how accurate that is, right? Because they spent a lot of money, all three companies, and now TCL is spending money on that. And
Yeah.
so I think weighing, again, it needs to be scored, but I think to make it such a strong weight as to take away the recommendation, I think is a bit much.
Yep. So I'm going to segue into a creator that I'm good friends with, is TKK. And he did a video recently, and he's very candid and very genuine about what he's got TVs and and he bought the Bravia 8 Mark II, no review sample, no nothing. And he games on the A95L, he games on all these Sonys that he has. And he has a bunch of, monitors. But he did say the guy was a professional gamer, professional Street Fighter gamer in the arcade. He knows all about latency and CRT gaming. But he was just kind of saying that, and I've mentioned this myself as well, Sony's game mode is among one of the best looking game modes in the business. Now, my problem I've had with Sony's game mode is it's never been something you can change much. So going back to Sony from years ago, 900E, you better like the game mode because you can't change it as much as the other manufacturers. But it looks probably the best out of any of the manufacturers, right? So seeing TKK put his foot down and say, look, as a gamer, I think it looks gorgeous.
Mhm.
And I think people are now saying they're chasing specs that they're not using. I can't tell you how many console gamers tell me they want 144 and they want
You know what? I'm going to
165.
pause right here real quick for you guys. Sorry, Brian.
What's up,
I didn't
Matt
mean
and
to
Bev? How are
interrupt you.
you?
When they say the TVs look fantastic, this is what happens to a LG when you push brightness too hard. You lose color. If you're saying I'm overexposing because the LG is so bright, I'm going to take down exposure significantly. You'll see for yourself. Even when I lower the exposure, look how much brightness you're missing on the LG. I mean, not brightness, how much color you're
So yeah,
missing.
you're still
There
losing a bit
is
of that color saturation.
there is a cost to be paid for that brightness. It's gray, right? There is blue there, and the LG, because why? You
Yeah.
want that extra brightness. And again, for sports, it doesn't matter if you're missing blue. You want to see the
Yep.
jersey, the score, all that stuff, right? It's just hard blacks and whites. I get it, and that does it fine. But the subtle gradients, the Sony still preserves it, although it's a little less bright. And so, these are the things that you just go, oh, it's not bright enough. It's slightly dimmer. As you can see right here, the Sony is not that much dimmer. But when I take the exposure down so you can see the missing color, this is vivid mode. It's not like LG is hiding it. Everything in vivid
Yep.
mode is colorful, right? And you guys
So
saw,
yeah,
I
so
reset the settings. So it's not like I'm playing with the LG settings, taking
no,
away
but
color.
here, but
This
but if
out of
you
the
but if
box.
you so if you stay with the G5 real quick, I'm going to segue back to that. They've recommended ratings to go with the G4. G4 is worse
Oh,
in
it's even
setting than the
worse. You
G5 is.
lose
It's
even
even
more
worse.
color. Hmm.
So everyone's going now. Again, you want to buy the G4 because it's cheaper. Buy it. It's a great TV. Do not think you're buying it because it's better, right? So back to what I say about the gaming. So Sony's game mode is gorgeous, but you have console gamers that want they want Dolby Vision or they want HDR 10 plus gaming.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They want all these different features. But here's the thing: it's a beautiful game mode. But if you look at Sony and what they want to put their resources into, they know that the majority of people complaining about the lack of 165, 144, a lot of console or PC gamers are still on monitors. If you look at the Steam analytics, most of them are still gaming at 1440p. I'm one of the only idiots spending $6,000 on a huge TV to PC
Right.
game. So for me, the Sony is no bueno from gaming. But to say that it can't game it still does 4K 120. If it was stuck at 4K 60, I get that. Is it the best choice? It is not. It's not. It doesn't have the best specs.
Yeah.
Samsung and LG dominate that market. But according to ratings, you can't game on the G5 either.
Yep. Oh, and you'll love my next one, guys. The next set of scoring is going to be very controversial, but it's coming from ratings. But I want to get some super chats real quick. Christian, thank you for that. Brian, next TV will be a 115-inch RGB mini
Brain.
LED. And I'll tell you, Christian, you are right. We 116-inch RGB mini LED.
We're
The
gonna see
Samsung
116 very soon.
115 RGB mini LED is still in development. I got the update. They're making it, but it won't be available anytime soon. They're going to make it available in 2026.
So let's stay with Christian with the RGB mini LED before we jump on this one real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, very honestly, I do find Sony's lineup this year to be underwhelming. I've stated that to Sony when I spent time with them. It just didn't blow me away. Only because the leaks, high def digest is in here somewhere. My man had me all, I'm like, dude, we're getting all this. But when you see that this is incrementally better, it's slightly better. There's a Bravia 5 and there is a QD-OLED. We all want better every single year. We definitely don't want to get worse. What we're seeing here is the accusation of it being worse. Not even incrementally better, but a step back, right? Mm-hmm. But it is underwhelming. What you're going to see next year at some point is their innovations into RGB mini LED. Now, this is my personal opinion. I think QD-OLEDs are not going to go forward much longer. And I love the technology. I think it's the best technology out there. It has the polarizer weakness is legit in a bright room. But as far as where these companies are going, they're going into RGB mini LEDs, and Sony has their own. So if they're guilty of saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to innovate this year much more, that's fair. And they're going to jump next year and bring out whatever they're going to bring out. And they're going to get into Samsung has one, Hisense has one, but they're all moving that way. Mm-hmm. But to say the Bravia 8 Mark II is basically falling between the cracks, and there's a big reason for it, FOMO. The naming scheme is horrible.
Oh, yeah.
To call it the Bravia 8 Mark II, even among search, FOMO calls it the II. But the search for it is hard. It's confusing. The Bravia 8 was not a successful TV. It's an excellent TV. But now people remember that TV and think that this one is a TV. Sony had to do a video just to clarify that. So I think
let me
Bravia
stop right here.
Has a lot going against it for that reason.
I want to start right here.
Dude, why can't anybody write my name as Brian? B-R-I.
Just real quick. And I'll get to the next super chat. Ramesh Sudial, you're next.
What's up,
buddy? He has a very funny one. This is
I love
to
QD-OLED.
let you guys know. This is why I bought the G5. It is because their tone mapping, when it's super bright, is untouchable. Sony is not designed to tone map this level of brightness because, as you can see, it's clipping, it's not clear. The G5 is rock solid. So we're not saying Sony's perfect. This is why, for HDR impact, the G5 is my TV, right?
Chris in the house.
Now let's get to Ramesh Sudial's comment. Thank you. He wants to bring some humor
to this.
What's
up, Ramesh? How are you?
What's up, FOMO and Brian? I own numerous Taco Bells. In my opinion, all TVs need to fix their anti-fart capabilities because no TV brand TV lasts more than a few months due to the excessive farting from customer thoughts. Yes, if you know, stay away from the internet after you buy your TV. Come on our channel, have fun, but stay away from the internet, my friend. That
Ramesh,
is a fact.
First of all, other than the farts, Ramesh just made me hungry for some Taco Bell right there. Get that six-pack soft, baby. What's up, Chris?
Kenneth Williams.
Chris is boiling in the house.
Thank you, Kenneth, for your super chat. Does the Mark II have Dolby Vision for PC gaming? I'm loving Dolby Vision gaming on my G5 PC. I honestly don't know. Brian, I don't think so, right? I mean, I'm not a huge Dolby Vision guy, so I don't track Dolby Vision gaming.
It has Dolby Vision gaming, but I have it. I've had it on LG for the last 3 years.
No, the Sony. Does the Sony have Dolby Vision gaming?
I believe it does.
Okay, I don't know. I can't confirm or deny. Well, we'll let Brian take that. And next up,
I'll try. I guess. So I'll tell you right now, I would never chase Dolby Vision or HDR 10 Plus gaming at all.
Nope, neither nor I. DJ has a super chat. Thank you. Bravia 8 Mark II color advantage. Details over my current G4 console gaming. Miss S95C colors. Keeping the G4 for movies. Matte coating S95F. Not sure. Australia does not have the S90F. Oh, too bad. Bravia 8 or risk S95F. Okay, so this is interesting. If you are looking for gaming, the S95F has more options in their settings. If you don't like to tweak settings, Sony, put it on 4K 120 or whatever, set it and forget it. But if you have lower or slower motion games that are 30 FPS, you're playing whatever old Switch, older titles, and you want to play with the motion setting, S95F is untouchable, or just Samsung in general, with their Motion Plus. It gives you those additional motion resolution settings,
Yes.
whereas Sony, it's just what it is. Very straightforward. It does not have as good
Well,
motion. Actually, very few TVs have as good motion resolution settings for
yeah,
gaming.
I mean,
So,
but Sony does have. I mean, within their settings, they have reality creation, which I don't know why no one in the chat is bringing up reality creation. Is something that people love. You can use it as another anti-aliasing tool.
mhm,
Now that the processor is so powerful, you can actually ramp that up and get rid of some of the jaggies on some of the content. Smooth gradation is also still there, I believe, in gaming. So there are a few things. They also have this split view. We can, split screen. They have other features, but they do trade shots. Samsung prides themselves on having like 11 different presets. LG's got a totally different game bar. So does Hisense and TCL. But
mhm.
Sony is behind in that regard. There's no doubt. Their game bar is not as elaborate as the others. But guys, keep in mind that is not their goal. I think you guys get confused that PlayStation and Sony, they're really very different from one another. You very rarely hear Sony PlayStation. You hear PlayStation. So they're closer together now than they've ever been. But the fact is, they're not in the same room and saying,
Right.
Sony PlayStation makes what they make for all TVs. They're looking to sell PlayStations, not Sony TVs.
Yep.
But when you look at what Sony's trying to accomplish, gaming is not their priority. So Plasma and you other guys, if you want the best gaming TV, don't even look at the Sony. But to say
Yeah.
you can't game on it is not accurate. The game mode
Mhm.
is beautiful, which is why I brought up TKK. It's a gorgeous game mode. So if you want your single player mode, and the input lag is fine for your multiplayer and your shooters or whatever. And if you want the best latency, get a monitor. But wanting these TVs to be everything, if you want this car to be good on a track, but then you're complaining it's not a good rally car, then what are we talking about? They can't all be everything. So if you want to say it's not the best well-rounded TV for every use case, it's not. It's a QD-OLED. You can't watch it with sun hitting it. So if you want to bring it for that,
Don't
I
take it to the
totally understand.
beach. Do not take it to
That's
the beach.
but don't think you can do that with the S90F that
Nope.
everybody's recommending. You put that thing in a bright room, it's going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this flipping away of buy this one and that one because it's cheaper, guys. If you want the best of the best for what your use case is, you want the best picture quality, the best picture processing and upscaling. It's Sony,
Well,
followed by
let's,
maybe by
Brian,
Panasonic.
wait. Let's segue into that. Image processing. This is the rating score, RTINGS ratings. Look at the score. Look how badly Samsung did relative to Sony. Now, this is one that affects all people who watch TV, whether it's streaming, whether it's news broadcast, it doesn't matter, okay? Now, they're all pretty good with PQ EOTF tracking. So they're all pretty accurate, but Sony, like the best of the three. So you're on accuracy, HDR, there you have it for brightness accuracy. Now, here's the one that affects you all. Low quality content smoothness. Remember we were watching
Ask
my
about.
YouTube TV, right? YouTube
Totally
TV,
ask.
terrible quality content. Oh, look at it, lo and behold. Sony and LG, pretty good. LG the best, 8.7. Sony not too far behind, 8.4. Look how terrible the S95F is. Why isn't anyone talking about that? This will affect more of you buying TVs. Now,
So
gamers don't care, but
So hold on,
low
let me stop
quality
you. Let me stop
content smoothing is like basic.
So let me stop you. Whenever I do a TCL video or a Hisense video, I did one today. FOMO did one yesterday. After you spend the money, after the TV is cheaper, after you get the specs, what's the one thing you guys ask me about? Processing and upscaling. It's that whole scenario of you don't care about AAA until your car breaks down. So you want everything to, you don't want to pay for that though. But these are the numbers that matter the most to many of you. Now, quality of life features, the remote, the stand, gaming, I get it. I'm a gamer. I don't buy Sony TVs for that reason. Well, that's not true. I have an A80L back here. But my
Right.
use case for this room, perfect example, FOMO. Why did I buy the A80L? I want an 83-inch OLED, For movies, upscaling. I chose that over the G4. I chose that over the C4 because my use case in this studio is movies streaming. That's why I chose it. It's an amazing TV. So is the Bravia 8. And look, the TVs are too expensive. The Bravia 8 from last year is criminally expensive right now. So I understand the it's too expensive thing. I get that. But that's not something, that's not a perception. That's a fact. But for people that want the best, whether it's speakers, who walks into B&W and says, I don't like those speakers, they're too expensive. I don't want that receiver, it's too expensive. Then look at a different manufacturer. But give them the credit where it's doing the best out of anybody.
Yep. And lastly, look at the upscaling sharpness. Now, Samsung is okay at 8.0. Look how much better Sony is. And then all this is thrown out the window. If you take low quality content smoothness and upscaling sharpness, this, I believe, affects more people than your gaming shortcomings, right? And to recommend the S95F over the Sony, now, pricing being what it is, they're very similar. So, but yeah, it's like, I don't know. I felt that this should have been weighted a little bit more. And if you did, then you would say the conclusion is not so much we don't recommend Sony, but rather Sony's expensive. There are alternatives. The Samsung's a great gaming TV, but beware, low quality content smoothness and upscaling sharpness, the scores are there. The question is all about weighting. How much do you weigh each of these scores? And I think for the common TV watcher, which is mostly our people are here saying, hey, I want to get a great TV. I'll watch this, that, and the other. Which TV to get? It's very use case specific. That's why I don't recommend one TV for everyone. Because Sony, image processing. I think that's very solid.
Well, Fomo, what do we always say? Anytime anybody, all of you guys that have been with us, the first thing they ask us is, which one do you recommend? What's the first thing we say? What is your use case? That's the first one. Then, what do you watch? Where does the TV go? Then what size you want. Then do you game? But a lot of times, what do we say? If you're a big gamer, meaning beyond console gaming, then go with these. But to expect the Bravia 8 Mark II to be the G5 in gaming, it's not. It's not good. And no one's denying that. But now I understand what you guys are saying. And I had this issue with the A90J. You are paying more for less, meaning you're paying more for less HDMIs. Those are all tangible differences. But weighting it, like you're saying, Fomo, if you want the best image quality or the best processing or upscaling, you're going to pay a premium for that.
So let me address G-Man's comment because, are we not? He's like, basically, why are we weighing Sony's wins heavier than Samsung? And I think it was pretty clear. What affects most users? G-Man, if you're a gamer, I get it. That's why I'm not recommending the Sony TV for hardcore PC gamers. But if you're mostly streaming, watching TV, broadcast,
everybody
high quality,
does
anything, right? Because the high quality stuff. Go ahead.
So listen, I gotta tell you this. So you guys may not know this, even though my boy here is fast and loose with the copyright. All I show, as much as possible, is the highest end footage because of copyright. Plain and simple. Everybody says to me, can you please show low bit rate upscaling content? Why? Because it's very important to you guys. And that's what this TV is best at. That's its greatest strength. I can't show it to you because I'm not losing my channel trying to show you a movie. And don't get it twisted. You can lose it very quickly. I'm not going to risk that. But I show you the differences in brightness. But all you guys will say, hey, can I just get SDR? Can I just get upscaling? Upscaling more than SDR. But even, I'll tell you this, Fomo, what happens if Sony just decides, you know what, in an update, let's raise the SDR brightness of Professional. If they make that adjustment, tonight they can do it. I'll say this, hey Sony, if you're in the chat, do me a favor. Have somebody in engineering just bump up the Professional SDR preset for us. Then everyone who runs and buys an A95L for that reason is going to be pretty upset.
And the last part for G-Man, it's overpriced. G-Man, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's expensive. But now we're going to value. And this is why I put this up, right? So the Bravia 8, oops, I forgot to label it, but the Bravia 8 is $34.99. The G5 and the S95F are $32.99. But you know what the value is? The 83-inch C4 at 3,100. And wait, the C4 is not a great TV. Are you kidding me? That 83-inch size trumps everything that the other TVs have. And if you don't think that the C4 is bright enough, the 77-inch, that extra size, again, you're getting more impact for the stuff you watch day to day than the other TVs. So if you're talking value, and you guys come on our channel, what do you always say? Get the largest TV for the budget.
You can.
Because it's so close in performance, you're going to enjoy that immersion. And right here, the C4 at 3,100 is the absolute winner. So if you're talking value, forget these flagships. When we talk flagship, there is no value, my friends. When we're talking expensive TVs, you either, shout the money, or you don't talk about it and get the budget. And if that's budget, I would recommend the 83-inch C4 or the B4 at $2,000.
B4 is my favorite. And what's funny about somebody made a comment about TVs being the brightest. The B4, when we were at M-Wave, the B3 actually was really the one everyone liked more than the Bravia 9. They liked it more than any A95L because it wasn't pushing the brightness. It had a rich, beautiful image, right? Now, quickly, FOMO, because we have Chris in here, we have a lot of old-time D-Nices in here.
And we have a lot of super chats, so go ahead, say your hellos.
Yeah, but real quick, to say these are expensive, if you've been part of the TV world for more than a few years, guys, the Z9D was 10 grand at 75 inches. The C7 was 15,000 at 77 inches. These TVs are cheaper than they've ever been. Now, I understand that Hisense and TCL push the prices, and we have a twisted way of thinking of what costs money. The refrigerators, your speakers, your receivers, they're all as expensive, if not more expensive than they've ever been. My GPU is $2 grand. My phone is $2,000. So to think that you want to keep cutting these prices down, eventually they're going to just say, I'm not making TVs anymore. You're seeing Panasonic, who I love. Screw this. They're going with Amazon Fire to save money. People want to buy the TVs. So I know you guys want cheaper and cheaper, and I get it, economics. But for me to say a TV is not worth it to you because of value, I don't know your financial situation. For me, a 4090, an expensive graphics card, is worth the money. To me, a 77-inch TV over 75 inches is worth the money. But it all depends on what you guys value. For me to tell you it's not worth it, I don't know what your money situation is. Some people don't drive great cars, but have beautiful, gardens. I don't know. They put more money into their homes. Mm-hmm. These TVs are cheaper than they've ever been, guys. And it's killing these manufacturers. And what it's killing also the retailers that you guys don't care about. You don't care if everything's Amazon. Well, Best Buy and those guys are not making their money. They don't carry even inventory anymore. Right? Robert, Value Electronics. There's no margins for TCL and Hisense. There's no money to make. So to there's a person who said, no, TCL has margin. We talked to the retailer. The reason why Robert doesn't carry those TVs, the margins are so slim for him. They're zero. By the time they ship them, they lose money. And you're talking about shipping a 115-inch TV, guys. This is not made up. But the TVs are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And look, I'm not saying I have money. This guy Ahmadzia, you're glad I got it like that? What happened? You don't even know. Who knows? But if I value something, if that's my thing, I can have a nice whatever, maybe not have a nice car. But you're getting it twisted now. There's premium products out there. The Z9K, premium product. Z9G, Master Series, was always expensive. But you want everything for free. Everybody wants, I want more HDMI inputs, I want this and that. But you want it for free? TVs are cheaper than they've ever been. But everybody forgets that.
We're spoiled. Go ahead.
Until Panasonic leaves the industry. Or until Sony just says, you know what, we're not doing it anymore.
Then we'll miss the good old days. And people will say, you know what, I was willing to pay more. Hey, thank you for the super chat.
Look at this guy. Poor CEOs of, guys, what do you think, I'm defending the CEO? I want more TVs to be made. I want them to make money too.
Okay, DJ. Bravia 8 Mark II color advantage, detail over my current G4 for console gaming. Yes. Now, it depends on the game, and I don't believe you need the 144 on the console gaming. I would take the Bravia 8 Mark II, color advantage and details over your G4 for console gaming. You miss, oh wait, we already answered that one. There was another one. Sorry, DJ, we already answered your question.
I was going to say that
It
looked very
was,
familiar.
yeah, Ramesh Sudial from FOMO Brian. I'm getting the LG G5 for my bedroom. However, the Sony RGB Mini LED is what I'm most excited. The Sony RGB LED, is there any news about it? Thanks. They're keeping it close to the vest. Now, the only news we got was Vincent got a sneak peek at, I forgot where he was. Was it Computex or somewhere?
The
Where,
way he did it was funny, though. He was like, that
MediaTek
was his
snuck out what appeared to be a Sony RGB LED, and MediaTek was showing off its chip that's able to process RGB LED, and it looked like a Sony TV, but there was no Sony branding, and Vincent's convinced that was a 75-inch Sony RGB LED. So that's, you know, and of course it's not Sony processing, so it's hard to say how it's going to be. But that's the only leak I have for you. Yeah, that's gotta love
Well, you
Vincent.
own how many Taco Bells you're owning, baby, but put one in the store.
Yes. And okay, so now to what you were saying, what were you saying earlier about oh, we want all these TV makers to succeed. That's why we help them to address where they're weak, right? We don't just, you know, hey, it sucks, and we walk out the door. Oh, it's trash. We say very specifically, hey, Sony, if you want to sell more TVs, do ABC. And we're in conversations with all of them, whether it's Sony, Samsung, LG, Hisense, TCL. When we are with their team, whether it's engineering, product manager, marketing, they're always asking us, how can we sell more TVs in terms of the product that people want? Not how can we scam people into buying our TVs, because we are product guys, right? So when people ask us, how can we sell more TVs? I don't say, hey, throw in a coupon. I say very specifically, well, you know, let's say to Sony, you guys got to package the PS5 or PlayStation as part of your TV asset. Make it a special experience for PS5 owners. PS5 owners and, you know, Series X and every console owner is very loyal to their console. They love it, right? They're tribalistic. They're
At least they used to, yeah.
Yeah,
What's
right?
up, Joel? Even Jolster's in the house. What's up,
And so
Jolster?
if your TV, if the let's say you have a PS5 TV, right? 77-inch, right? Amazing. QD-OLED, whatever OLED, doesn't matter. And it has something special for gamers. Anything, right? Special remote, you know, you could use it as a gaming controller, whatever. They will take that to heart. But those are things that you can package for your owners, because what was Sony's weakness is really gaming. We talked about it, right? But then suddenly it's like, oh, this is the gaming TV of choice for PS5 owners for next generation. Like PS5 Pro, we already know. It's pretty much a PS5, right? But PS6, is it bringing something to the table? You have time to develop a TV specifically for it. Take advantage of that, because I'll tell you what Samsung's doing. Their TVs talk to the washer and dryer. So when you're watching TV and your washer is done, it's going to say, boom, guess what? Washer is done. Go put it in the dryer. And you know how many women love that? Because God forbid, you leave it in the washer an extra 10 minutes and it gets moldy. Because apparently that's the number one alert that women ask. And that's why they buy the Samsung TV. Not because of image quality, other than, wait, I have a Samsung washer. Is it going to tell me that my washer's done? Yes, it will. Oh, that's it. Back it up.
Dude, it's funny.
No question about image quality.
I can totally picture that. You and I, as a creator, trying to film the TV, and it's like the notification is like your underwear are dry. You're like, damn, I got to edit that out. Well, to your point though, with the PlayStation here, what has been a missed opportunity for Sony is over the years something like having 1440p available on PlayStation, and Sony didn't have that. So it did really make people scratch their heads and say, wait a minute, aren't they talking? The reality is PlayStation is going to do the best it can to succeed in its own right, meaning it wants every TV out there to work well with their console. Now they are working closer together now. Now they are more in talks, and they do work better together. What they really should have is their remote should be able to operate the TV. They had that back in PlayStation 2, right? Do a lot of that stuff, and they'd be fine. So I understand why there's confusion. Just like I understand the Bravia 8 Mark II name is confusing. These are real missteps. It's just not a trash TV.
And I think Roxy's question
What's up, Roxy?
is such
I
a
still don't get it.
complex and nuance. I still don't get it.
It's
What's the
perfect,
best OLED
actually.
TV for gaming? So this is so So I'm going to start
It's
because
not the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II.
I'm not a PC gamer. I will tell you this: all these
I am.
TVs are great for gaming on the PS5 or PS5 Pro. I have both. I have PS5, PS5 Pro. I play various games right now. I'm just addicted to Black Myth Wukong, right? They all look great, but then again, I'm not like some of the hardcore gamers that pull out. I mean, they have a real monitor, so they can notice the difference in response times between their hardwired mouse and hard-lined keyboard, right? And here I am with my controller with an extra 7 milliseconds of latency added to the system latency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right? So, Roxy, for console gaming, all these TVs are fine, absolutely fine. Now, if you need some motion settings because you're going on lower frame rates for whatever reason, you know, you have an older game, whatnot, Samsung does that best. If you're comfortable with how LG does HGIG or whatever, their reputation is they have great HGIG. I think a lot of gamers don't like LG right now for whatever reason, right? Like I spoke to KG. His current favorite TV is still the Samsung, Sony second, and G5 dead last, or C5. So you guys could confer with him, but he's not happy with how the G5 and C5 does gaming. So that's his opinion. But
again, wait, that is his opinion.
Yes.
Of thinking this is broken over.
Well, look at his Switch. He just did a review, right? He did it. His last video was his last video or the video before that. He's very impressed by the Sony Bravia 8 image quality over the C5. And this is C5, right? You know, that's
how confusing is that? You got to run down and grab a Bravia 8, which is
I know. Now the 8 Mark II. So Roxy, go ahead.
But Roxy, for you, Roxy, it's not just what is the best gaming TV. For you, what's your percentage of it gaming, right? So when people ask me about my G5, what's up, Capona? I haven't seen that dude in a minute. People ask me about my G5. Was I really concerned about the things it was struggling with? Not really, simply because I game on my TV and home 98% of the time. So if that's your use case, then yes, get the best. But if you're somebody who watches 60% of this, you game 40%, do you see what I'm saying? For me, the G5 is primarily a very expensive monitor. I'm not going to be streaming movies on it much at all. I game in my home theater for that one thing. Just like the A80L, I'm here because it's a good streaming TV. So that is important to, what's up, Getty? That's important to know what the percentage of your use case. The best gaming TVs out there are Samsung right now. Game Motion Plus, the most presets, 4 HDMI 2.1, fastest input lag, then followed by LG. Then you have TCL and Hisense for their features, and then you have Sony. But as far as Sony's
wait.
It's beautiful.
Speak of the devil, KG's here. I'm gonna have to ask him this question. I love it. It's like you talk about someone and they appear. But real quick, thank you for the super chat, Getty. RTINGS ratings advise to choose the A95L 65-inch over the B8 Mark II. Look, if you're on a budget and you want a Sony and the A95L happens to be cheaper, yeah, okay, get it. I think the Bravia 8 Mark II has the better image quality for what I need. Brighter sports, HDR impact. I like it better. And for that, it is better than the A95L. Now, ratings thought that I think the slight banding on the Bravia 8 Mark II was a little bit worse than the A95L. So if that bothers you, get the A95L. For me, I don't see enough content with the issue on either one. And I mean, you could find the issue. I think the improvement in brightness, full screen brightness for sports, news, streaming, whatever, in a bright room, plus the HDR impact, specular highlights, was significantly better than A95L. We saw it at the live stream we did a couple of months ago. Based on that, I'm like, okay, the Bravia 8 Mark II definitely is an improvement. And let me see. Christian has a super chat. Go ahead.
Christian, man, you see, we spent all that money.
Oh, can I address this? FOMO, why haven't you gotten a colorimeter yet? Because I don't have time. I am the kind of person, if I have a toy, I will be deep in the woods and you'll never see content from me again. Like, when I get a camera, I spend weeks using that camera. And then So I
Yeah.
can't afford, in
No.
terms of time, to spend
Yeah.
with a colorimeter and that. I mean, the minute I
No.
saw that
Well,
rabbit hole, I'm like, you know what? I got to put out content. I would rather Classy do all the work and then give me,
yeah,
hey, tell
but
me
but
what's
also
happening.
but also, Phone, we've talked about when it's about getting content out and what you value as a creator. You spend time in that. You get in the woods. Now you're in this whole other audience, and they don't necessarily watch videos. So we try to get the content out, buried in TVs right now. There's 12 TVs in this room surrounding me. To then spend time on that 2%, to which someone's going to tell me the YouTube, you can't see it anyway because of compression.
Yeah.
So to really go crazy on that certain thing, we have to pick and choose what we're going to put in our videos so they're not 3 hours long.
And to KG's point, and this is
What's up,
why we
KG?
talked about UKG, the Sony gaming
Talking
thing, I do
smack, bro.
feel,
We
is
came
a bit
in.
blown out of proportion. I get they should be matching the features, but 120 hertz is all most gamers will need. If you're a PC gamer, you probably won't buy a Sony. And on top of that, KG, I mentioned that you preferred the colors and the image quality on the Sony over what you were dealing with on the LG. So go ahead and
Yeah.
elaborate on that. But I think I caught a
Well,
couple of your videos, and you
but
preferred the
KG
image
also,
quality of gaming. And KG's a gamer. He's way more of a gamer than I am.
yeah.
I mean, he's the guy who
But
spends
KG
days
also,
gaming.
but KG also in the past has liked smooth gradation. I think he's liked reality creation.
Uh-huh.
So these are some features that people don't bring up, right? But without a doubt, not even an opinion, there is so much more flexibility of image, especially on Samsung. You can make that image look however you want. Sony, the game mode looks great, but you're not changing it much. The dynamic tone mapping, the gradation preferred, they don't change much. You can't actually, live color is less effective in game mode. So the picture is what it is, but it is gorgeous.
And to your point, Night of Cipher, it's
So
more than
Cypher,
just 165 hertz. It's the motion handling, latency, HDR10 plus, etc. And that was our point. The gamers, where all these things are important, there is a TV for you. For the
absolutely.
casual gamer, which is, I would suspect, 99% of PS5 owners are casual gamers. All of these things do not affect them. Like HDR10 plus, PS5 doesn't even support that, right? Latency, you're under 10 milliseconds, you're good to go. And so, absolutely, Night of Cipher. PC gamers, they are their own breed. They know what they need, they know what they want.
We call it the
But
master
the
race,
Sony
baby.
Bravia 8 Mark II wasn't designed to appeal to that and to have your scoring weighted in such a way that you can't
No.
recommend it in light of the other TVs having it. I
Yeah.
think it's overstating it.
Well, and FOMO, to a point though, even for my own use case, I have not bought the best looking TV year after year because I wanted it for gaming. I didn't expect the A9G or the Z9K or the Z9G. I didn't buy those specific TVs because of their pixel response years
Mhm.
ago. That was important. I took back the 940 because it was blurry, right? So that's not my use case. So it's a lot of times buying the inferior TV for what I use. I do use 165. I do PC game. I'm hardcore gamer, but I should be the one tearing apart the Bravia 8 Mark II. But I'm not judging it for not being a good gaming TV in the nitty gritty. It's not saying it's that. It goes back to that thing on a track. What do you drive? You want to be a rally car? You want to be a sports car? What do you want to be? You can't expect them to be everything. I think that's what a lot of you guys are expecting. And is you want it to be good for everything. And it's not what they're claiming to be. It's not their strength.
And I want to look at this image real quick with you guys because the Sony actually
That's
has
a great,
brighter oranges than the G5
great
here.
development.
So here, the Sony is brighter than the G5. Look at the vibrancy of that orange, right? Of everything. The
Yep.
color is more vibrant. Now, obviously, we're in vivid mode, but if we're going to go, what's the brighter TV? The two TVs are both bright. Sony, better luminous. Because when you talk about brightness, it's the context of what you use it for, which takes us to Be a God, 2009. I guess he's no longer a god. Why can't people understand that Sony TVs are primarily made for cinema experience, which takes me to
Yeah.
the scoring for the image processing. And this goes, beyond cinema experience. Just any content where it's low quality or you need some upscaling, the Sony absolutely destroys the Samsung S95F. But that, I think, affects more people. And so it's beyond cinema. It's just regular
Then
TV
input
watching,
lag.
right?
Yeah.
But
So
it's like,
FOMO,
I make my recommendations based on what people's use case are.
FOMO, you were there when I made the joke because their moniker is "Bring Cinema Home," right? That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. And when I saw that there was no 77-inch, I raised my hand. I'm like, I thought we were bringing cinema home because it was all about immersion. So I get, where they're lacking in terms of availability and flexibility.
Hmm.
There is only two models released this year, or the Bravia 2 as well, but there's only two main models. So I understand why it seems underwhelming to many of you. But again, we're
It
not
is.
talking about underwhelming. We're not talking about lack of wow factor. We're saying that this TV is not worse than the A95L. And it's been labeled as that. The whole point of the video is to find out what your complaints are. And all I see in the comments this whole time for the last 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, has been price.
Yeah.
None of it has been image quality or processing. What they do well has not been your complaint. I want to see that complaint. Bringing cinema home, their processing, XR cognitive processor, focal point analysis, all the things that they do well is not what you're dinging them for. And even what you're seeing on screen is not accurate. They don't look that, it's nowhere near that difference in brightness. And I'm watching it through YouTube. It's just,
Ne-
that is
Yeah.
what you're trying to get that and say this TV, and that's just not accurate. If you want the best that money can buy for that use case, FOMO, it's going to be Sony. That's why the Bravia 9 is still beating the best mini LEDs in the world. It's not because
Hmm.
it's brighter at all. It's not brighter at all by any of these to stretch. The Hisense U8K is a flamethrower, but it's that refinement that you're paying for. It's like the engineering for Porsche or any of these manufacturers. You're paying the premium for that. Not really understand why that is being lost on you guys for that. I just don't understand.
And this is answering KG's question. Bravia 8, this is Bravia 8, not Mark II. The Bravia 8 just looked better than the C5. I was pretty surprised at that. I also think that Sony has a really good HDR tone mapping approach for gaming. Why? So I'm going to answer that question, KG. Now, everything follows HGIG guidelines. So if you missed it earlier, and those who just joined us,
Very few
Sony's
highlights.
position is very clear on HGIG. When you are in game mode, standard is automatically HGIG enabled. They just assume that's what you want. So they don't have an HGIG button because in their opinion, this is HGIG. They are on the HGIG forum. They're one of the founding members with LG, Samsung, and everyone else, except unlike LG and Samsung, who have a button. Sony doesn't understand, why do you need a button? If you're in game mode, shouldn't you start with HGIG? But for the other TVs, you have to enable it. And to Sony, that doesn't make sense. Start with HGIG and then screw around from there.
Yeah,
Because if
yeah, they're
you
saying
turn off
by default.
HGIG, then what are you, right? So you can
Yeah,
play
they're
with
saying by
dynamic tone
default.
mapping,
Yep.
whatever. So the default for Sony is HGIG. And
Yeah.
they are very flattered that KG finds it pleasing because that was the point. They are already in HGIG mode.
And
And that's
and I
directly
think
on my stream when I addressed that question with
and I
JT, the
think the
product
only
manager.
and I think what the complaint they have is there are times where dynamic tone mapping, say on an LG, on or off, then HIG does look different when a game supports it. So I think that's what confuses people. But in theory, you're right. HIG not enabled is HIG for the most part. That's how it's supposed to be. But that's confusing, and it's supposed to be a standard that people follow differently.
And I want to throw this in. Thank you, Apple
What's
Jelly,
up, Apple
for
Jelly?
throwing this
How are you?
out. So she went out and wanted to let us know on ratings the red color volume A95L, significantly less than the Bravia 8 Mark II. So 221 versus 344. Now the Hisense U8Q, mini LED power, 527. So this is, and of course, measuring on, and this is why Brian and I don't like measuring on patterns. Once you get image processing into play, everything changes. Everything. And so
Yeah.
it's not enough that you do that.
There's also panel variants that no one's talking about. Panels are different. Banding is different on panels. There's DSC. Not everything's in a measure. So if you're going to measure them this way, you should buy 3 of them in different lots and then measure them that way. Because there
Yeah.
is panel variance. Some TVs just aren't as bright or they do have issues.
Brandon has a great question. Does the QM8K, that's the TCL that I'm reviewing, just so you guys know, I am swapping out my 85-inch and TCL is going to get me the 65-inch because 85-inch is
Traitor.
impossible to compare because, for lots of
Traitor.
reasons, you guys know,
I'll
right?
compare that. I compare that, baby.
Does the
I keep
QM8K
the
have the
85.
same backlight system as the Bravia 9? So I spoke to TCL and they were very clear. Guys, the Bravia 9 backlight is only 22-bit.
We
Ours,
got 23, baby.
23. They
23,
added,
kid.
and they were very clear. We added one more bit. I don't know how they did that to beat Sony,
Bro,
because Sony led the industry
TCL,
in 22. We got 23. Tell the world.
TCL, I promise you, TCL is gonna do a 117-inch, not 118, baby, 117. They'll
Right,
go that
because
1 inch.
so Samsung's got the 115, Hisense got the 116, and TCL's
116.
calling, hey Mo, increase it by 1
Hey,
inch. We
Frank.
got to be 117.
He's like, hey FOMO, should we just do 2? No. Let's not go crazy. Really quick side story. We were at the Hisense pre-release. When I heard 116, I fell out of my chair. I'm like, wow, they went 1 inch larger. 23-bit, baby. That was that's awesome.
And
Not
okay,
24.
I think
Not
this
even
is a
even.
good time to talk about our dear friend Caleb Dennison.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me kind of take this down because I've spoken to him a little bit just to find out, hey, what's happening? What's happened in your life recently? And you guys kind of know what's been happening with him for many reasons, right? But what I'm going to say to you is this: we are not going to talk about the merits of the lawsuit. So if you guys don't know, there is a litigation lawsuit between Digital Trends and Caleb. And we're not going to go into the subject matter. You guys can do the research. But basically, Caleb left Digital Trends. He thought they were a great relationship. Next thing you know, they're not. And so he needs our help to help pay his legal bills. And a lot of people are saying, wait, how do we know Caleb is wrong or right? So this is the part about the legal system not many people realize. I consider Caleb a friend. And unless he's able to have an attorney, it doesn't matter who's wrong or right. The person with the attorney, first and foremost, always wins. The person with a better attorney always wins. And so even if Caleb is on the right side, without an attorney, doesn't matter. And if he's on the wrong side, they'll figure out in trial, but that's the whole point. Two good attorneys, then it's a more fair litigation process. And so whether or not he's on the right or the wrong, here's my take on it. He's a friend, and I've known him for several years now. As a friend, I trust what he's doing. One, he's an underdog in this ugly lawsuit, and I want him to have a chance to make his case. That's the least a friend can do. And if I was just to end, well, I'm beyond friends. Before I even met Caleb personally, I followed his channel. He helped me choose the Sony A9G because like, oh, what TV should I get? I saw his review. Oh, wow. And I got interested, right? So as a viewer, he's done a lot. But if I looked at it objectively, he goes out of his way to have integrity. There are a lot of things he will not do because he was afraid it might jeopardize his objectivity or the optics wouldn't look good. Whereas the temptation to make money in this industry by quote unquote shilling or selling out, he is very, very conscientious of avoiding that. And that's why he worked at Digital Trends. He felt, you know what? I'm being hired as a journalist. I don't have to deal with this craziness. And so he's very above board. And so when we talk, it's always with that context in mind. And I love that he's really, really followed that mantra as a journalist. And I've told other people, I am not a journalist. I am an entertainer who loves TVs and shares my subjective opinion about what TVs I think are great. Because to go down that slippery slope of being a journalist, I cannot entertain, right? I feel that it's more important that I share my honest thoughts because I want to be part of the story. I need to bring and engage with you guys. And technically, a journalist shouldn't be doing that. They're not engaging with the story. That's how I run my YouTube channel. But for Caleb to only be that journalist, that's, he's charming, but he will never cross the line. Where many channels are at risk of not getting any more viewers unless they cross the line, and he still is preserving that. I think that deserves a shot at least, I don't know how to describe it, just a shot to argue his case. And that requires attorney's fees. So he has a GoFundMe page. I'll link it in the description below, but I'm sure you guys will find it everywhere. But Caleb's GoFundMe page is helping him pay for his legal fees. So,
Yeah. So I've known Caleb now about 5, 6 years, and for many of us, he has been an inspiration long before we ever did videos. Again, as Fomo said, he helped me choose my TVs many years ago. But the first time I met Caleb, I was kind of starstruck that it was him. He was very down to earth, no ego at all, super friendly, very passionate, and as Fomo said, all kinds of integrity. But it was the fact that he was so open with his knowledge, with advice, how to build our channels. He has been a very good friend. We were the first channel, FOMO and I, to have him on to help him launch his new channel. Now, FOMO, what Caleb has, he's not just fighting for his career. It's his identity. It's his face. It's his creativity. It's his talent. It's his knowledge. It's not a job. His face, everything that's been on camera for many years, wants to be taken going forward. Whatever was before. No desire to talk about that. But what his identity is going forward, his knowledge, his passion, everything that we know about the guy, his character, wants to be owned by someone else. And that is wrong. And if my channel disappeared, I'd be devastated. And I've not been doing it anywhere near as long as Caleb. And who knows if we'd even be doing it without Caleb. He was the first. He's an icon for what we do. But he is passionate. He's genuine. He's real. He deserves your help. He's benefited all of us, you guys as viewers, us as reviewers. What's happening to him is terrible. He deserves his time to fight, the ability to fight. I think he wins. But the whole YouTube landscape is much lesser without it. No question.
yeah.
I know we feel the loss. I'm not using my platform to speak about it. That's not what my channel's for, which is why we're doing it here. But help him contribute to his GoFundMe. Let him fight the good fight. The guy deserves it. He's not fighting for a job. He's fighting to keep his face. His face, his voice, his passion is being taken from him. Not what was before, but what is in the future. Think about that. Somebody wants to own you going forward. That's what's wrong. So please check out the description. Look for his GoFundMe. Help out our dear friend. We really appreciate it. We can't wait to get him back with us. We were all looking to collaborate, and we will in the future. Let's just help him win. Thank you, guys.
And someone posted earlier, because they checked, his GoFundMe got $22,000. And just guys, give you guys context. Litigation, typically, so lawsuits like this, it's we're talking.
To retain a lawyer,
The final bill is closer to $500,000, and that's if you settle.
Well,
if you go to trial, it may be more. And you and I have hired attorneys before. Just a retainer to get one job done that would take no more than 2 weeks is like $10,000. And something that looks like it'll last for years, yeah, he probably won't make it.
For me to even be involved in something, whether it's a non-compete, and I've had those in the past, to spend $10,000 or $15,000 just to retain, then another $10,000 just to be told that I would lose. That's already more than the GoFundMe he has now. So, and this is not a guy who's a millionaire. This is not a guy. Stop looking at the views and all that. He was working a job, editor. I mean, he's not just somebody like I just picked up and became a YouTuber. This guy's been in the industry that long. And that's being taken from him, his ability to support himself. Somebody wants to own. We're all worried about AI taking us over. Someone wants to take over his future. And
so
he's not 20 years old.
Let me comment on that. So basically, he would have to go into construction, become a manicurist. But if he stays in YouTube, that's what they're going. They're basically
They want his future.
If he cannot prevail in this lawsuit, he will be unable to continue YouTubing without paying Digital Trends a significant sum, which we don't even know how much it is yet, but I'll tell you, it's Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they've closed the window on one ability, his way of making any money,
A
because
living.
that's all he
Just a
knows.
living.
He can't make a living other than that. But now that they're going to take that away from him, so I think
But but but
that's the
but
issue.
also but also FOMO, could you, and all of you guys, could you imagine you write music, you collaborate with a band or a record company, that is gone. But can you imagine them wanting to make money on your next project,
Yeah,
your solo career, things you've created yourself? Even if they train you, even if you're in a trade, if you're a carpenter and somebody helped train you, they can't own your future earnings. And that's really
yeah,
kind of what is happening here. And that's the big fight that we're talking about. So the real impact is not ranting in videos and yelling about it. The real thing is go into the
yeah,
GoFundMe and help them. That's how
yeah,
this is going to make a difference. The other companies aren't going to care about our channels yelling about it or talking smack about them. That doesn't help anybody. If you want to help
yeah.
him, just donate anything you can. We'll help him.
And we're not here to talk smack about digital trends because we don't know who's right or wrong. But I do know that one, Caleb has earned this much, at least with me, is my respect, my friendship, and a chance to have his day in court. And, that's
Yeah,
what it takes. So, help him a little
yeah,
bit
and he
helps.
and he, yeah, and he is a dear friend, and that's why we're covering it. So,
Yeah. So, moving on.
so
Hey,
Lonnie,
Lonnie. Let me
wish my
move
name
you
was
back
Lonnie.
next
It's
to
like a
me.
fun
Let
name.
me add the beautiful TVs that we have really quick
Lonnie, come
again.
on, Lonnie.
There we go.
It's a great name, by the way, Lonnie. I gotta rock that name. That just makes me
I
smile.
gotta love it. You guys don't need to see my name. Let me take
What's
that
my
out.
name?
There
What's
we
my
go.
name?
Okay.
What time did we
Hey,
get
Brian
on?
and FOMO. Love your shows and find them very informative. You're welcome. I'm still interested in the 85-inch Sony Bravia 9. So am I. Do you think that the 2024 Bravia 9 has had the DSE test done by Sony? Yes.
Yes.
Sony does that test on all of their Bravia
The Mira.
TVs.
Mira.
The
Mira?
Mira,
Mira.
yes.
I call them Mara. Not
So
Mara, but Mira.
definitely,
Yes.
Lonnie, get the Bravia 9. Don't look back. You'll be very happy.
Yep.
Okay, I think we've been on for an hour 45 minutes. Now, and the reason why I'm here is
It's
my family
nothing,
went on
baby.
vacation.
That's
So
that's nothing
it's
for us.
like Father's Day coming up. I enjoy spending time with you. They're like, hey, you want to go to Hawaii with us? I'm like, you know what?
Dude,
I
FOMO.
gotta get
FOMO.
work done, this and that, because I know I'm gonna go to Hawaii again later in the summer. Why don't you guys go without me? And
Dude,
so they're
so
like,
FOMO
okay, we'll
says to
celebrate
me,
Father's Day when we come back. Like, all right, I'll spend my Father's
so
Day weekend start off with you and our friends here.
FOMO says to me, he goes, I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow. I'm like, dude, isn't it Father's Day? He goes, my family left me. So my wife and kids are like, where are you going? I'm like, I gotta go stream with this guy. I got no family. They took off on
Like,
Father's
like I feel sorry for him. He's so lonely, right? He's like a sob story. She's like, oh yeah, go hang out with FOMO. And thank you, Brian, for kicking off your Father's Day weekend with me. I mean, I called other guys, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm on my way to the Cape with my family. It's Father's Day. Oh yeah, I'm doing this. What are you doing? I'm live streaming.
I
But
mean, guys, look,
I
in the
thought
end,
it would be fun.
and look, in the end, we get heated here. We have discussions. We take strong positions. But that's what these are for. There's no context in a video about it where we're just, it's a living, breathing discussion. That's why we're in the comments. That's why we talk to you guys. That's where we can let loose and have our conversations.
Yeah,
Neither one of us are toxic or going to rant or go hard. It changes nothing, by the way. There's nobody at Sony who's going to go, oh my God, you see how mad Brian was? Let's change everything. There's no engineer who's going to be like, oh my God, you see FOMO? That's it. We're going to drop the price. This
I know.
conversation, people listen to the conversation. They listen to the discussion. They're not going to listen to us trashing anything. And guys, I will critique every TV. I just don't yell about it. I'll tell you I made fun of the remote. I made fun of the stand in my video, but my animated voice doesn't go up or down because I'm making fun of the remote. We still criticize them. We criticized this when the TVs were announced. But what we're here for is the fact that it's being considered trash. Some of you are missing out on what you actually want. You're going to buy an inferior TV because somebody told you it's a piece of crap, and you're going to wonder why the upscaling is not great. But you
Yeah.
save $200, you save whatever. If you want the best of what this does, that is what it's for. And wait for the price to go
And
down. It's too expensive. Don't. I'm not. I'm telling you, if it's too expensive, wait.
yep.
It's like, I don't know. What's up, buddy?
And Buddy
You
went to
spelled my
throw in
name right. Look
his
at Buddy spelled my name right.
Buddy wants to throw in his 2 cents, in this case, a super chat for $5
What's up,
regarding
buddy?
Caleb's situation. Caleb is Digital Trends. They know that channel won't make it without him. And because of Caleb, I found FOMO's channel. Because of FOMO, I found Brian. Hey, you know, we're one big loving family. And we hope you guys
I
also
thought you.
part of
I
that
thought
family.
he found me. I thought you found me first.
You
Just
know,
kidding.
this is Buddy
Right.
Love. He finds everybody.
Buddy love, baby.
And I want to bring up this comment from Mozart's. Quick update, right? So, are you going to look at the new G5 firmware tomorrow? Oh, you know what? What else am I doing this weekend, right? That's what Mozart suggesting. So, just to give you guys a quick update, the G5 you see below is currently, if you guys just joined us and don't know which is which, the G5 you see below is on the new firmware and the Sony Bravia 8. You know what? Let me pause right here. Boom.
Hold on. You guys
And
don't
I'm gonna
understand.
put them in filmmaker mode, right? Because they're in vivid mode,
Almost,
so you know, no one
FOMO's
wants
got
that.
some low key funny moments. They're low key. KG,
Low
KG
key,
remembers
right?
the one. KG remembers the one with the mask like 2 years ago. FOMO right there.
The
What
mask,
am I gonna do?
the
This weekend?
Zorro
Hey,
mask.
Zorro the Gay Blade.
He's all like,
But
I don't
FOMO
wear a
just said, he goes,
mask.
FOMO goes, what am I going to do this weekend? I guess I'll just play with this TV. He's only been playing with these TVs for freaking 10 hours, by the way. Oh, by the way, please hit like on this video. It's been,
Please.
he spent all day setting these up. KG, remember the mask? Zorro, the Gay Blade. Oh, man. I wish we all lived closer. We all just get together. We hang out, 316 people.
So I'm increasing exposure. So you guys can see they're both in the most accurate modes, right? And what you guys see is very similar. So, I mean, I guess none of them are calibrated, by the way. But the G5, it's slightly darker, but I don't know which one is more accurate. I have to bring out the reference monitor for that. But they're very close. Like, I wouldn't say, no, it was much worse in prior scenes. So, yeah, the G5 definitely addressed it. Now, what I noticed, though, is they did not address, well, I didn't look at it critically enough for the green tint, but it appears the green tint is still there. So I'm going to do some
real
more
quick.
comparisons.
Let me interrupt real quick.
Uh-huh.
Tony, who was at Value Electronics with Luke and I, Luke is the guy that peeled the screen off of the S95. Tony actually was with us during this whole shootout that we did. Tony bought the A95L from Value Electronics, loves the TV, but he just donated to Caleb's GoFundMe.
Oh,
So
thank you so
appreciate
much,
that,
Tony.
Tony. That's awesome. Love you, bro. We'll see you at the shootout, actually. I'll hit you up later with the details. And he bought an A95L.
Bravo. And
Respect it.
Ramesh Sudial, thank you for your super chat. I stand with Caleb. I have not watched DT since. Nor I.
I don't think about Taco Bell now, bro. Thanks.
Mozart's thanking me ahead of time. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, what else am I doing this weekend? I'll work out. I'll do this and that. I'll probably do it.
That was hysterical. You looked right into
Saturday,
space. You were like this. I guess what am I doing this weekend?
Again, it just hit me. Wait, I can work out. Like I tell Brian this. I have extra time. I'm gonna go work out, right? But I have extra
Thank
time.
you,
I'm
Apple
gonna
Jelly.
test
I appreciate
the
it.
G5.
Apple Jelly, happy Father's Day.
You two are good people. You all are good people, and we're here to support the
Thank
good
you, Gary.
people that come and show up. Okay, Brian, do you have any closing comments on just the state of how reviewers make recommendations, this and that?
So,
Because I think this discussion is a broader message that I want to leave with people.
It definitely is. And KG talked about this with the C series, and we've talked about it over the years. I remember a number of years ago, the C2 was like the weak TV of that year. And at the end of the year, that became our go-to TV, the one we recommended above anything else. This literally is a race from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. A finite review is never finite anymore. There's no real consumer reports, hey, this TV is a 9.2. They can change that score tomorrow. So it's very different how we consume reviews. And something gets painted with that brush. They change it. You can't wait for an update, but things get altered. The QM7K had an issue. We did it on our stream. TCL fixed it that weekend. Now, it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way right now. That's the world we're in. Gaming changes. Something's broken, they fix it. But we have to be more flexible in our coverage of these products all year long. Not only does it make good content for us and content for you guys, but the days of seeing a review in the beginning of the year, and that's what it is, those are over. They're outdated already. They're flexible. They're living, breathing things that change throughout the year. Now, ratings, love ratings. If it wasn't for ratings, and Adam and Cedric,
We won't
my
have
channel would.
measurements. We would have
But I mean,
measurements.
not just that. If it wasn't for ratings, my channel wouldn't even exist. They were helping me before I was on YouTube. I was returning TVs that were $13,000, and they were and I want to interview them. I love them. Now we're going after them for this because this is the discussion. But I have nothing but respect for Cedric, that entire team. I want to go meet them in Canada. Love them. That's not
Well,
the
after
point of
this,
video.
after this super chat, they're going to
After
lock the
this,
door.
they
I mean, after this live stream, they're going to lock the door and send you across the border.
And the emails might be gone. And also, in closing, guys, you have to understand that.
Oh, we have just
as
so you know,
we
we have a bunch of super chats I have to get to. I forgot about it.
where we going? We got no place to go, baby. You got no family. You homeless
No
right
food.
now. But the
I
point
have to
is
remember,
also,
where am I going to go eat after this?
ever since I've been on the platform, depending on when you watch our videos, you're going to be painted as that shill during that video. It's
Oh,
unavoidable.
always.
Right? So as we get more access, I can't tell you how many companies we've seen, the TVs you guys see, lined up against the competition to make it look worse or better. They've all showed us what the TVs are better at. LG did it, Samsung did it, Sony's done it. All of them have done it. So we are all bumping into each other. Vincent doing, we're all hanging out. We're all spending time talking about this. But as we get more access, you guys think that we're paid. I wish we were paid. I wish somebody would pay. Nobody's paying for anything. You get review samples, you review the TV, and it goes back. That's how it's been for years. All the written media, that's what happens. That's what we're doing. And they all have their strengths. But I review them and look at them many times. And that's why we compare. That's why KG does it. That's why we compare the TV side by side.
Yeah, it's
So
really
to
hard
just say,
in a vacuum. Yeah.
but at the end of the year, a lot of times the TV that we think is the best TV, almost never FOMO is the best TV at the end of the year.
Oh, well, let's talk about this. Last year's shootout, you predicted the G4. I predicted the S95D, A95L, won for the second year in a row, because we weren't thinking the same things the judges were, because they were thinking a completely different criterion. So, and that's fine, right? That's what we have fun predicting. Now, this is a great question from Ramesh Sudial. Best TVs for Dreamcast and older Sega NeoGeo games. And so I think this is where the Samsung TVs earn their keep, is their motion settings allow you to adjust to adapt to these slower frame rate games, because come on, image quality, it's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the motion that's going to really kill you, right? 30 FPS or worse. And I think Samsung at different price points, whether it's a mini LED or their S90D, will do a great job with that. But that's my take. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, and that's where you would think Sony would be better because of their processing. But their processing, a lot of that is not enabled in gaming. Whether it's XR Clear, a lot of that doesn't work or is not enabled in gaming. So, again, Samsung with their motion and the way they handle it, I totally agree. And again, Samsung and LG, look, I'm already having buyer's remorse because the S95F at 83 might not have some of the issues that G5 has. So
okay, now I'm going to pause here real quick and explain that this is not what I'm seeing. You guys are seeing more of a green tint than I am. I think my camera is sensitive to this image. So don't use this as, oh my gosh, G5 is terrible. They actually look very similar. I mean, yeah. And so this is another problem with some scenes on the primary RGB OLED and on the quantum dot. It's not that green. There are scenes where it is, but this is not one of them. So it's like, it's kind of hard. But okay, I'm sorry to disrupt you. I don't want people running, oh, look at that, the G5 is terrible. It's not that bad.
Yeah, no, but I mean, we haven't done this. I don't think we've ever really done a video where we've talked about a specific model this way. But as we mentioned, it may seem like it's a Sony apologist, but we're going to do one for LG. But LG is
I originally was going to do one for LG,
Yeah,
And be the
which
LG
actually
apologist, right? But
which is actually
apparently,
harder because LG is working on it. So the Bravia 8 Mark II doesn't have any of the issues that the G5 has, but they're being painted not with that brush, but being painted as being a step back and not recommendable.
hmm
That's what I don't understand. How are you not recommending it if it's the better T? Yeah, we're going back. Oh, we start it over.
yeah.
Run it back. We'll do it. Ready? Take three.
Well, it's okay. I think we answered Ramesh's question.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I hit everyone's question real quick. Skipped a few. Getty, thank you for your patience. 83-inch S95F versus LG G5. Brian, when is that coming? So have you been in touch with Robert about when the 83-inch S95F is? Because the G5 83-inch
The,
is already there. What about this one?
the S95F may already be there. The challenge with it is we're preparing for the shootout. So the store is not going to be opening any new TVs or any, because we have to start clearing the store out. So if it is there, they're not going to tell me. They're going to wait.
Because you might
Everything's
jump in there and yeah.
I mean, I'm tempted to go up and just get it and bring it back here if they have it. But I know whatever is going to happen, they're going to wait until, because I know that even the big Bravia 5, they don't want to open if they get it because they're going to have to pack it back up. And unfortunately for Value Electronics, the more you pack these TVs back up, they may not see the light of day again. So they're going to bring that TV out. And remember, FOMO, the S95F is a very rare TV. Once that TV comes out of the box, they're going to want to sell that. TV is $6,000. So at some point, you'll see that.
And KG said, would love to see it's coming. Bravia 8 Mark II and G5 next year are 3110. And I think the S95F, I should be getting that, I don't know, a week or two. So I'll do it with the G5 first and then the S95F later. But yeah, I think the big thing is we know the Bravia 8 Mark II and the S95F are pretty good out of the box. It's the G5 that's struggling a little bit. But what's interesting is I want to do the SDR because Ratings was not happy with the SDR out of the box.
I'll have it with it.
And
If
so
it
that's
wins
what I
it.
will look at. Yeah.
Imagine if it wins it. Oh, man.
Oh, wait. This is a good comment, Apple Jelly, because I think we have our opinions on this. You two need to be careful being invited to TV events to be seen used as a tool. So my goal in going to these TV events are threefold. One, oftentimes the engineering team is there, right? Hisense, TCL, oftentimes they're there, and they take notes about our opinions. And I need to talk to them directly and get feedback when it's coming, why they're not doing this and that. So definitely, that's why I go, one reason. Number two, I definitely get to see the TVs ahead of time to see, okay, what's interesting about these TVs? What's the update? What isn't? Find out about their release dates if I can share that. So, the actual logistics of what if you guys will ever get to see these TVs in your hands, the specs that are special. Oh, what? Did I have to do the same thing again? And then lastly, and this is the part where I don't mind being used as a tool, sometimes they throw a good party. I'm always up for a good party, right? Hey, it's free pizza, where's FOMO? And then Brian's like, no, is it gluten-free? Like, oh.
I even get that ribeye.
Can't make it.
Well, and Apple Jelly, I appreciate your sentiment, but here's the thing, is they are my friends. And I'm very close to that family, the Zone family. It's not a Samsung event or a Sony
No, I
event.
think she meant the TV events like TCL, Hisense,
yeah,
the wild parties.
So the shootout is near and dear because I'm very close with the Zone family, the entire family, their kids, their significant others. As far as the TV events, every media member, you saw Chris in here earlier, all get invited to these events. Caleb, I mean, I'm seeing Tom's Guide. So yes, we're part of this industry. I've been doing this for 7 years. I'm finally getting into these events. I will tell you, not a single one of these people has ever say good stuff about me. None.
Nope.
But the fact is,
actually, let me give you a story about Samsung though. So, okay, to your point, say good stuff about me, right? When I put out the video about, was it something Samsung? Wait, TV crisis. There we go. 2025 Samsung TV in panic mode. So Samsung didn't mind that part because those are articles. What they took exception to, and I listened to them because they wanted me to be clear, was that my impression of the QM8F was that they mailed it in, right? That, oh, you guys didn't do any work on this, so forth, right? And so I spent time talking to the reps at Samsung saying, guys, I don't make this stuff up. Let me give you a list of things that are wrong with it. And they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't know. I said, yes, now you know. And so the next steps they took were, one, they reached out to Classy because Classy had the TV, he had the measurements and stuff, and they're flying him in to fix these things. And so we don't tell you these things because, you guys don't care. Maybe you do. But the fact that Samsung did that, I said, that is what impressed me. It wasn't to say, hey, FOMO, don't say those things, but rather, really?
Yeah.
Is it that bad? Or are you just being entertaining? Like, no, it's that bad. And so I emailed them clearly what the issues were and why I said they mailed it in. And they went, oh, well, the hardware is upgraded. I go, that's the point. I don't care what your hardware is. When it doesn't look better, that's a problem. If your hardware is better and it looks worse, that's even a worse problem. Then that's why I said you mailed it in. You can't have better hardware specs, but the image quality drops. But because they literally reached out to me within days of that video dropping, we talked it out so I could explain clearly. And then Classy called me and says, yeah, Samsung's really, really prioritizing fixing the QM8K, and he's going to help them out with that. But that's why I think this is why we go these TV events, is they feel comfortable enough to text me and then call me, and I feel comfortable enough with them to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's up, right?
Well, and their complaint was, why don't you just tell us first, right? So even with LG, right? LG, I've sent emails, hey guys, there's a lot of comments. This is what's on the street. This is what's happening. You can look at forums all day. I don't go on forums for obvious reasons, but they do pay attention. But I know what you're saying about TV events. The fact of the matter is we're not paid to go to these. We go for access, just like every media member that's been doing it for 20 plus years. They invite reporters. We're an extension of that. We're just part of this YouTube thing where we're not media. Now they're actually starting to understand, okay, these guys are part of that. So we get invited to these events, just like any other media member has been invited.
And real
that's
quick,
your
Plasma,
opinion, though, my friend.
No, but I want to address this, Plasma. It's important because they don't charge more. Only in the U.S., because of the issues that we all know. In Europe, the U.K., Sony Bravia 8 Mark II is like $600 cheaper, $700 cheaper. So I think this was a misstep on their part. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Sony. This is my speculation. I believe that Sony thought the tariffs would be much worse than it ended up being. Maybe it will end up being worse. They were covering their behinds, pricing it accordingly, and then it didn't happen. Samsung and LG hit the right mark. Sony did not. Yep. Now they're priced too high, which tells me that come Black Friday or Prime Day, they'll be priced street pricing as it should be. Because again, look to Europe, UK, significantly less expensive than the G5 or the S95F. So to your point, Plasma, I think this has more to do with the political, global, economic changes rather than Sony, I want to charge more money, I'm going to give you a sucky TV. So we have to understand a more nuanced version. Now, globally, if they charged a premium, I'll be more likely to agree with you. But the fact that only in the US, North America, Canada, right, that's a whole different deal.
So what's more nuanced than that, if we stay there for a second, is do you honestly think if they added HDMI ports, 144 hertz and 165 hertz, that would move the needle at all? I mean, at all. TVs. They wouldn't sell maybe two. They know adding that in, the TVs will have to be more expensive. They'll make no extra money, and I can prove it. The best-selling Samsung TV is the frame. It's not good at everything. Do you see what I'm saying? So we can please you and please me, and I can get a Sony TV for gaming. Most people, especially PC gamers, who really like talking about what they're, even in these forums, a lot of those guys still have plasmas. They don't buy anything. So you're talking about these things you want, but you're still not going to buy the TV. They're going to spend millions of dollars doing that and not sell TVs. So Samsung's got it right. You know what? Forget about it. I'm not going to compete with TCL or Hisense. I'm going to make sure that your phone connects to the TV and your wife is buying it for a picture. So, like, keep that same energy with the Samsung frame.
Yep.
They're not going to make that 100 crazy gaming TV. If it's about selling TVs, trust me. If you say they want to lower the price, totally understand that. But being better at everything, you think these guys don't sit in a room and say, "Guys, should we do HDMI 2.1?" Well, somebody chops that up and goes, "No, the TVs will be
Actually, no.
they'll be more expensive." Actually,
This is a great comment that Plasma just put out. Now I'm going to address this real quick, John. Is Panasonic out of the picture, sort of to speak? The answer is no, John.
no, we'll
We
see
have
them in a
something
couple.
special up our sleeves this month. You will be very happy. So
Yes.
yes, we'll let you know as soon as we're able to when we see the TVs ourselves. Now, this comment by Plasma TV: if Sony Bravia 8 Mark II was
You're
240
out of
hertz,
your
they would
mind.
sell them all out. No, but I do want to mention this, and he's not technically not wrong. The A95L 77-inch Unleashed Pro model for Hollywood is sold out. There is a waiting list. That TV is expensive as heck. None of
What's
you,
an
or
OLED reference monitor?
maybe some of you can afford it, right? That A95L is currently the hottest selling OLED reference monitor in all of Hollywood, outselling the
But,
LG G5, and they cannot keep those
yeah,
in stock.
but
So
FOMO,
if they're,
we know
if gamers have that kind of money like Hollywood studios, you're absolutely right.
that's
And they're selling it
so
for triple the price.
that's my point. Is that the reason that TV sells? It's basically a QD-OLED reference monitor. They buy them, they truck them in, they look at it versus
No
the
warranty.
BVM.
No warranty. Unleashed, and it's
So
part
yeah,
of
they
their
look at it.
filming budget.
But
Part of the film
but
budget.
Plasma, if you think PC gamers are going to spend that much money on a 240 hertz QD OLED, they're not.
For
There's
that
so many
price.
amazing there's monitors out there that smoke that already. So I'm not disagreeing with you in this sense. That is not the best use of their resources. And that's not what they claim. They didn't say bring PC gaming home. I think that's been the misunderstanding. That's not their goal.
Isn't PC gaming always home?
You know, it's been home, but that's not their goal. Look at Asus.
Right.
Those guys, that's their goal.
Oh
We're
yeah.
saying we're saying you can game on it. They have a beautiful game mode. But I think we've been doing this push and pull for 2 hours. They're not the TV for you, my friend. That's all.
Yep.
They don't want
And
to, and here's the thing: they don't want to be.
they don't want to be the PC gamer's
Because
choice. No.
well, look at LG G5. They add 165 hertz, right? And they get crushed for 12 millisecond input lag. Now they not even recommended. How did that work out for them? I game on it all the time. It's incredible. But now, because they've gotten even deeper in that, they got nowhere to go. Now they have to. Now they're listen to this. Now their engineers are not even trying to fix the black crush, or they are. But their biggest thing is now input lag. And PC gamers have all the money. You're wrong. They have the money because they spend it on their rigs. Look at the
right. They have no money after spending it on their rigs.
On their rigs. But guys, most PC gamers, if you look at the Steam analytics,
Look at the Steam analytics, right? What are they gaming on?
None of them are gaming. 4K is the minimum. 8K is zero. 4K barely anything. HDR, they don't even bother with a lot of them.
They're not even on 3090s yet.
No, a lot of them are 1440p because it's a great mixture of speed and image quality. But those great monitors that they like that are fast don't even have the processing these TVs do or the tone mapping they have. So for Sony to then go that far, for what? There's no money in it.
Now, DJ has a super chat. Thank you, DJ, for your patience. The G5, same measured color luminance. Oh yeah, I love it. The G5 has the same measured color luminance capabilities as the S95C. For RGB CMY, LG has QD-OLED color, just not current gen. So S95C color with LG processing. Now let's see, is that just a comment or is it a question? Oh, so it's a comment, exclamation mark. And so this is why it's always great to delay your purchases. The longer you wait, the more all these TVs get better, right? Like the S90F this year performs near identically to last year's S95D benchmark flagship for a whole lot less. So the G5 is amazing this year. If you guys could hold off to the G6, how much better could it be, right? So thank you for that, DJ. And So, and just to your point, DJ, this is what the shootout is for. You could, Dwayne is here still, I hope. D-Nice, yes, he is. So D-Nice and his team will be selecting content that challenges these TVs to go as accurate as possible, because it's one thing to measure luminance on a pattern, right? Oh, it's all red, all blue, whatever it is. It's quite another when you put on a real image where they have to process the image, balance the energy levels, right? Make sure that everything looks good, process it, all of that. Does it still preserve that color luminance? So when you do luminance purely on measurements, it doesn't necessarily reflect what your image performance will be. So we're not saying the G5 doesn't have impressive color volume relative to the G4, and it may be enough to get them in the game in terms of the shootout, which is all they want. They want to be close this year. Last year they weren't even close. So yeah, DJ, you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing it, because if the content doesn't challenge the G5 beyond its capability, it'll do a lot better than people expect.
Yeah.
But if Dwayne and his team choose content where the color luminance is pushed beyond the G5's capability, you're going to see the differences, and the G5 will not do as well.
Well, what I'm excited about the shootout too is that we're not seeing a bunch of mini LEDs going against. There's just some elite TVs that are going at it that are very close, and I think that's what the shootout's going to be best at, is finding that nitty gritty between these four TVs. That is really going to be. I think it's going to be just going to be much more pinpoint in the winner this year, because they have these. Everybody's rocking the guitar. II and Fomo should be like Crossroads.
I'm definitely not as good as
discussion.
Plasma.
Yeah.
All right. I think I've got all the super chats. Just making sure.
And somebody said, look, the PC gamers are irrelevant. I didn't say they were irrelevant. I'm a PC gamer. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying they're irrelevant. I'm saying the money's not going to be there to invest.
There's not enough of them. Yeah. I think the thing is, there's more casual, rich people buying TVs for just movie experience than there are rich PC hardcore gamers, because they want to drive that. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like selling 101. If you can sell to 80% of the market, your job is done. But if you have to be in a niche, man, that's a rough swing, because that 5% could disappear overnight.
Yeah.
But if the 80% that you appeal to, and half of them are gone, you're still getting 40%. If you're selling to the 10% and they disappear, you're down to 5%.
Well, and you see that with GPU makers that are no longer in the industry. They're struggling. But if you look at PC gaming, guys, TV makers are competing with TV makers. Maybe projectors at the large sizes. In gaming, you're comparing with monitors that are ultra fast, they're affordable. Then that's a desktop conversation. Most PC gamers, because your keyboard, you're on a desktop, right? Because if you're a true PC gamer and you're on a controller, you're going to get laughed at. So very few people are on a couch 10 feet away with a large TV. That's what I'm saying. The more you divide that up, that's even less money going to the TV thing. So there might be more PC rich gamers, Plasma. My experience with PC gamers is they spend money on the rig, and then I don't know a lot of them that have TVs. I'm one of the only ones I know rocking an 83-inch TV for gaming and PC gaming. I bet you if you ask LG what that number is, it's very small. And that might be part of their demise.
I'll be honest, there are probably more rich housewives who chose a Samsung for the laundry alert.
For the
than
frame.
You guys realize. Hey, Amir, I'm so sorry for missing.
Hold on real quick. For Plasma, here's the thing. To your point, really hardcore PC guys really want higher frames than even Samsung and LG are delivering.
Oh, yeah. You know that.
If they have that money, they want to go even higher. So a TV, they're going to kind of be stuck with it. Right? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Amir Nasir, thank you for your patience and your super chat. Hi, FOMO and Brian. My new Bravia 9 85-inch is great, but I see a lot of ringing, flickering. When I watch 4K YouTube or Netflix, animal fur document, is this normal or my unit? Okay, I have not seen ringing or flickering. So two things, Amir. Is this through HDMI or is it on a native app that's in the TV? And which app? Because you're seeing ringing and flickering. Oh, YouTube. So you're watching, so are you watching the YouTube app or the Netflix app? Animal and fur. And are you using sharpening settings like Are you enabling any of these settings, or it's just out
Yeah,
of the box
what
default?
preset are you in?
Yeah,
Well, also, I mean, the problem with our streaming is it your connection? Is it what are you streaming? So I think what you want to do is go in and make sure that, especially on YouTube, go into the settings and make sure that you're at 4K 60 or whatever the highest resolution is. Check that. Make sure your internet is good, and then go into the settings and see maybe some of these settings like advanced contrast enhancer. Those are going to create noise. You might be
yeah.
watching it in vivid. That's where you want to go into your professional preset or just movie or cinema or whatever. So try that first. If you still see it, then try a disc.
Oh, before I forget, Sony support. I forgot they have their own channel. Bring this up to Sony
How did you
support.
know?
So I
Yeah,
forgot. YouTube,
yeah.
they have their own YouTube channel. They come on live once a week, at worst once every 2 weeks, and they are literally there to answer these questions, Amir. So show up, they will give you their email online, their phone number, whatever it is. Their job is to make
Yeah, that's
sure,
awesome.
first,
Yeah,
find out, is
Derek,
it your
Larry.
TV? You have Derek and Larry are great. I was on their live stream last week, but it's at Sony support, right? It's just spelled Sony support. Find that on YouTube, show up, ask them this question, and they will take care of you, or Sony will take care of you. It's actually Sony's channel. That's what I love about them. So hopefully, and come back, let me know if they fixed it and share with us what was wrong. Hey, LeBron,
LeBron
thank you for the
James.
super chat. Do you guys know when we'll hear about the TCL QM8K? I have my suspicions. I suspect it'll be next month. No inside scoop, right? No NDA breaking or anything like that. All I know is TCL has said to me, you guys will be excited. We're rolling out a new TV every month. Now, if I take that
Yeah, well, I mean,
literally, right? We take it literally. We just got the QM8K, so just every 2 months. Sometime this summer, QM9K, or
well, the
maybe the
Q,
X11K.
well, the QM8K drop was hysterical because it was like, "Hey, you ready?" And I'm like, "What? CES? No mention of a QM8K." All of a sudden, it's like, "Hey, you want to see it?" I'm like, "I do." It's in the other room.
My prediction definitely midsummer, maybe late summer at latest. That's my
That'd be
prediction for when
badass,
it
yeah.
drops. And DJ, thank you for the follow-up. Most meaningful color measurement for game content. So this goes to the problem with measurements. It's actually image processing. Game measurement is one thing, but it's not meaningful if you have black crushing, inaccurate color rendering, all these crazy stuff, right? And KG can attest to some of these issues, doesn't matter what the measurements are. So I would say at this point, if you're getting a flagship TV, whether it's a G5, whether it's a Bravia 8 Mark II, whether it's a S90F, S95F, the color measurements will all be impressive enough. It's how they render the colors in game mode for your game. And that is something that one measurement will not reflect, unfortunately. Okay, I think you're yawning, my friend. Let's wrap it up. Uh, you already had that closing comment. I'll just jump in real quick, and then
In
you can have
closing,
that
once
last
again,
one. Right? I completely forgot that super chats.
your family's clearly
So
away.
yeah, I know, right? Like, because normally I gotta go feed the kids. Like, I gotta go feed myself at worst. So now this entire stream, if you guys made it this far, is not so much as throwing shade on ratings or whatever, but rather questioning how much weight was placed on the bad scores. Remember, I didn't question the scores per se because the scores are what they are. The only score I actually questioned really was the SDR Brightroom. When I found out all they did was max out filmmaker mode and compare everyone's filmmaker mode at max, and then the Sony's Professional, I think that was the problem. I think, and that's why I demonstrated my video, is in vivid mode, out of the box, right? The G5 and the Bravia 8 Mark II, very close. And that's why I was so shocked. It can't be that dim. Because the only time I need a TV that bright is when I'm watching sports in a bright room, news, whatever. I don't care about filmmaker mode, professional mode. I wouldn't put the G5 in filmmaker mode in a bright room, right? I put it in ISF, bright, or standard, or sports, because there's a reason the content you're watching needs to be bright in that room, right? And that's why Sony never would have thought of that either. So it's not so much they're nerfing it, but the context. Now, moving forward, if Sony thinks it's a big deal, all right, fine, we'll make, professional mode, vivid mode, whatever. But, these presets serve a purpose. So I thought they overstated the dimness because they limited the application of that brightness measurement. When you limit it just filmmaker mode, it unfairly indicts the Bravia 8 Mark II. And this applies to all the TV makers. I'm not just coming out to defend Sony. Had they done this with the G5, I would have came out and said the exact same thing. That's not how people watch TVs. So that was my only issue with that scoring in particular. But everything else, I felt they unfairly overweighted Sony's low score because, as you saw, Samsung did even worse in image processing, which I think affected even more people, but it's highly recommended as an alternative. So I think weighting what's important to you is key, and I thought they overweighted the gaming part. Now, many of you disagree because you're gamers. I get it, but most of my viewers, if you look at the questions, it's all about, well, does this look good on streaming content,
Always.
Netflix,
Always.
right? Upscaling. Sony killed it on that. Sony and LG both killed it, with Samsung coming dead last in those things. So that's just kind of context I want to throw out there. Doesn't mean that the Bravia 8's perfect. I agree with all of you who said it's overpriced. In the USA, it is absolutely too expensive.
It is too expensive.
But the context is they did that thinking of what would tariffs do to them. Because the rest of the world, it's priced perfectly for a Sony TV, which is several, like $600, $700 cheaper than the G5 and the S95F. I think this is uniquely a North American thing, unfortunately, and we're suffering for that. But it was Sony's misstep there because they didn't predict properly, and G5 and S95F predicted that nothing would happen, and they got it right.
Well said.
And so I could get my shill. Jimmy, thank you.
So, Jimmy?
Makes total sense, FOMO.
Jimmy's in the industry. Jimmy has a store, I think, in Australia.
Now, at the end of the day, we're here for you guys, right? It doesn't matter to us which TV wins. If you're happy with the TV, you win.
Yeah.
And that's always been our position. If you're not happy with the TV, then we lost. We didn't do our job.
Yeah, and for us and for me in closing, especially, when Panasonic left the market a number of years ago, I was very sad. I don't want to see any of them fail. I want to see, it's like any sport team, I want to see them all compete at the highest level possible. That's all. It's not one over the other, ever. And I know people at all the manufacturers now. They're all real people with real jobs. I don't know the CEO, but I do know the people that their jobs do matter. And I do care about those people as well. And they're all putting, we meet the engineers at all these companies. They do care what you guys think. It's not some evil empire that doesn't pay attention. They're trying to fix it. So we're rooting for them all. And I want them all to survive, but I want you to buy based on what you value most. If it's too expensive, it's too expensive. But if you want this, get that. So it's not here defending you do this for any of the companies. But we're just trying to bring some clarity. That's all. Just clarity to what we've seen from these TVs that you guys have never, ever seen live.
Yep. And Mozart's Ghost, Brian, we need to talk to Rob Brennan again sometime. And if it's Epson you want to talk about, he's your man, because that's where Rob Brennan is right now.
Well, I did just talk to Rob Brennan, and he's going to come on the channel and do some TV talk and talk to about his Epson and also just the TV industry. But he's a dear friend. I owe Rob a lot. You'll see him on the channel very soon.
Yeah.
He took a nap. I'm going to take a nap during
I think we wrapped up a lot of the comments. And, well, you know what? Thank you, everyone, for showing up, spending time with me on this Father's Day. All you fathers out there, all of you who have fathers, have a great weekend. I will try to get a live stream comparing the G5 with its recent firmware update to see how well it fixed the black crushing that you saw in my last live stream, and against the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, and I'll have the reference monitor there so we can see who really is crushing or lifted. It works both ways, and we'll play with the settings too. I'll tell you this, the Sony arguably could be lifting it slightly, so we'll play with the settings to match the reference monitor. No calibration, just the basic settings that are available for both TVs. So we'll have fun this weekend. Brian, what are you doing this weekend, next week? What's your content schedule?
For me, with the Bravia, it was the QM8K versus the QM7K. I dropped that video today, so check that out, please. I have to then do the QM8K versus the LG G5, the G5 versus the Bravia 8 Mark II, the QM8K versus the QN990F. We had a lot of fights coming. Bravia 7 versus QM7K, Hisense U7K at some point.
Yes, that's
the
coming.
U8K and the Hisense U8Q versus the QM8K is probably what I should do next. But yeah, we're buried right here. That's before the
Yeah.
shootout. And we have some
Oh,
exciting other events that we're attending in the next couple weeks for some of the brands that you're looking for. So we have a lot coming up. Too much, actually.
too much.
Which is why we haven't been on camera together.
I know you're so busy. I'm so busy. Okay, so with that, thank you everyone for coming. Enjoy your weekend. Until next time, stop the FOMO.